Now, and thanks to Kevin, the first thing on our live is your verbal tick. Ugh, we're already so unprofessional. All right, everybody, welcome to the final Gaytriarchy. I'm Spacepan. I'm joined by Kevin, the liberal hammer, and the infamous Mitch.
Hello.
Yeah, so and I have sent the link out to some other people who I think were interested in hopping on. So maybe we'll see some more people kind of wander in as it goes on. I'm hoping Chadwick Moore will show up, but we'll see.
Yeah.
But if it's a
And
bad
let's see
time
if we
or
get
whatever,
Peter
hopefully.
Boykin.
Oh, sorry, what? And Peter Boykin.
And let's see if we get Peter Boykin. Yes, that message went through to him.
Well, on my end, it says it did. I got this automatic this kickback message, so I don't know.
Okay.
But this might have been this politician page. I know we were friends before he had a proper I'm a person page, but
does anyone have an I'm a person page this day and age? I mean, come on, no.
Yeah, well, that's the irony, right? Is once you're a public figure on Facebook, instead of being a normal person that you can interact with, you become a manifestation.
Oh, absolutely. I've seen people enter politics, even people that I've communicated with, and some of them, their actual Facebooks, they just stop using, and they'll keep them, but I've seen them even become managed by, people who work for them. So it's, yeah. There's something to be said about that.
Social media reflecting reality, or imitating life, I should say. Literally that.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, so I do have some topics lined up. I don't know which one we want to talk about first. The one I have up right now is the Hallmark story, the one that nobody's talking about, even though this news is about a week old now.
Yeah, I know.
The funny thing is it's over a commercial, right? But if I play the commercial, I might get a copyright strike for playing a commercial, which you'd think that you'd get the opposite of a copyright strike. You'd get good boy points and they'd send me money.
I know,
for playing their
I know.
stupid advertisement, but they pulled it because it had it was a lesbian wedding that was featured in it. So what had happened was, Hallmark's trying to be very, very woke, right, with their positive lesbian family message. And then people complain, and Hallmark buckles to the complaint. Which Hallmark is, they really don't like to upset anyone, right? They're in the opposite business. So, of course, they always buckle to pressure. They're the most easily manipulated company of all time. So, of course, they buckle to the pressure because they're oh no, someone's offended, let's just not. And then by doing that, they just made it even more offensive, right? Because now you have all of these very progressive people saying, how dare you shut down family values, which is a very interesting irony.
Yeah. Well, what was interesting is that I believe, of course, Million Moms stepped in there and expressed their opinion on the situation.
Yep, that's what it was. 1 million moms. Which that's the way to get anything done. It's got to be a million moms behind something. You gotta get.
I know, right? I thought it was interesting when that whole situation. When I first heard about it, I was like, huh, because first of all, I don't watch the Hallmark Channel myself. I used to tell a joke I'm not gay enough, but I know, or old enough, or single enough. But I just found it very interesting because, mind you, they put the commercial back afterwards. So they had the commercial. Obviously, there was the reaction to it. Then the backlash, and then there was the backlash after they removed the commercial. So it was it was backlash, and now apparently they have the commercial back. And I think this also was interesting because it was on the heels, and I think this other article came out first. I'm not sure, but there was a article about an interview with a representative of Hallmark saying that they did have plans to eventually create a movie with a gay character. So that was interesting because I read both of those around the same time. I'm not sure which one came out first. So that made me think, wow, this added another layer to that too. And I mean, if I kind of wonder if the commercial to an extent was Hallmark testing the waters for that.
Yeah, well, I feel like
I,
they couldn't have possibly not anticipated there being some kind of an issue over it. Obviously, they chose a
yeah.
lesbian marriage over two men, right? Because I
Well,
think that
yeah, because
that's
that's less controversial.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
much less
What,
controversial, which is the way it's
what if
always
it's just
Mhm.
been.
shit? What if it was
Um,
just shit and they were like, oh, we're not airing this. This is just sappy and shit, even for us. That's what I thought. Like they just didn't like it. Not that they had lesbians on it. Thought crap. Not we're
Yeah.
not having this.
well, I wonder if that's a
Well, my,
winning recipe. Is like is like they're running out of stuff that's like really those Hallmark moments. It's too cheesy. It's too sappy. It's too cliche. So you can just
mhm.
take the whole thing and just make it lesbians, and then
See, if it was my
suddenly it's
sex
like
stuff,
subversive, right? Like,
if it was my sex stuff is so maybe I would have preferred that. I think they should have done that.
Well,
If you remember that.
yeah, there's a whole dimension of Hallmark moments that we're not celebrating, and not enough people are talking about it. Pornhub's talking about it. Maybe Pornhub's going to be the new center of family values on the internet.
Porn, Matt.
oh, that I think that day is coming. No, it's
Now,
just
when you say
it's
coming, sorry.
mind you. Then there is the current war on porn dividing the conservatives. But I find it very interesting. To me, so a lot of people say to me, well, aren't you happy with, hey, it's representation? And I say this in relation to this as well, the Hallmark Channel, as I do to when they introduce a gay character into a lot of different films or television shows, is how authentic it is and how sincere it is. Is it just full on pandering? Because obviously, them doing it is pandering to one degree or another. But what level of pandering is it? And what I mean by that is, and also, is there any effort actually put into it? For example, I personally find it very aggravating when they take an established character and turn them gay. A lot of people celebrate that. I know a while back there was like, oh, Captain America. Oh, what if they made him gay? Him and Bucky gay? And I'm like, trust me, while the thought of those two actors going at it is everything, no, I'd prefer, that's lazy. That's actually kind of insulting. If you're going to create such characters, how about create new characters, not just rewrite old ones and give them authentic storylines? That would be a more genuine. And another thing with this Hallmark, I just get the feeling, because I see this every time when a channel or a production company or whatever decides to dabble in pandering to the LGBT community. What they grasp at first, of course, is the stereotype. So I just get the feeling that this Hallmark movie, if they come out with one, it's going to be, I don't know, a love story between a florist and a hairdresser. Um,
You know what? You mentioned florist. I went on a date with a florist, and
Of course
that's a
you did.
very wholesome occupation. And
It is very wholesome.
No, I mean, no, I'm just saying in regards to stereotypes. Regards of stereotypes, it's this, and I just get the feeling they're gonna do this more flamboyant. Like my husband and I watched a Netflix movie that was on recently. We kind of just saw it, and it was by a production company. I forget it, but I forget what it's called right off the top of my head for some reason. It's about Santa Claus's daughter. She wants to go to college. And in it now the production company I know is very fond of having at least one gay, well, LGBT character in most of their movies. So I was like, oh god, I wonder when they're going to insert this character. And oh god, do they insert a character? And I mean, it is like they were like, let's go through this, check off every gay stereotype we can. Let's see if we can do this.
They do it with Muslim characters as well. The women always have to wear the hijab, and it's like they do realize in certain Muslim countries they don't even wear it.
Mhm.
It's not a thing.
Yeah. So I mean, that's the thing for me when getting us back to the focal point here. The focus here is this hallmark. What's happening with this? I mean, first of all, how genuine is this? Because I mean, then again, I see the right respond to things in ways. I watched a video by a conservative. I don't even know who it was. It just popped up on my feed, and he was saying, it's one of those get woke go broke ones, and he was upset with some restaurant commercial, and he showed it, and it showed a man and a woman kissing first as this group of people are meeting at a restaurant, and then two men kiss quickly, and he narrows in on the men, saying, why was that necessary to insert in a restaurant, a food commercial? And though, to be honest, I'm like, really, this is what you're getting on? I'm like, but why was the heterosexual kiss necessary to insert?
Well, wait a minute. To be fair, you shouldn't. No. We should not have the gay kiss until we've seen at least like 8 to 9 of the heterosexual ones to be statistically right.
I apologize.
The gays got 50% of that kissing representation, and I guess we got to pay reparations. But I want to play this ad because it's 30 seconds.
Okay.
It's an ad. It's in the article. And like I have it like small enough skewed down here that I don't think it's gonna be an issue. So let's take a look at it. We're gonna take a look at it and see what all the fuss is about. So I'm gonna start it. I'm gonna mute my microphone. I guess if you want to hear it, you'll have to be like on the actual stream. So Kevin and Mitch, sorry, you're fend for yourselves, but mute yourselves for just 30 seconds here, okay? Oh, my own tab is muted, so I'm eating my own shit right now. Unmute site. Okay, now we're gonna go.
I, Ava, wonder if our guests would be here on time.
If we had a custom wedding website.
With our ceremony details on it.
And I, Taylor, would pick Zola to have and to host our wedding website.
Ours even matched our Zola invites. The whole thing was so freaking easy.
Do you think Zola could have made planning your perfect wedding easier?
We do. I do.
We've helped 1 million couples plan their weddings with free websites, registry, and invitations. Get started for free at Zola.com.
So there it was. Benign as hell. I rate it like just benign out of 10, but yeah, and it's not even like a Hallmark production or anything. It's just they have an ad that's Zola.com. So I definitely, on my channel, I have an entire stream dedicated to the lesbian question, to the idea that maybe lesbians are behind it all. Maybe the lesbians are the real Jesuit, Freemason, Knights Templar, Illuminati overlords. Maybe it was lesbians all along. Tear off the Scooby-Doo mask. It's just lesbians. It's just two women kissing every time. So we've entertained that to a degree. Not to the degree we should have, because we did not have Black Knight Fool on the stream, so it was a failure. But the point is, we're asking these questions, and I will say that I think Hallmark kind of was wrong on this. Now, one other thing I want to mention. I used to work for Hallmark, so obviously I'm biased. I would be biased in favor of always white knighting for them, because I think they're a remarkably awesome company. I love what they do. This is totally unironic. Like, I think that the idea of like getting a card and giving someone that, and like dressing up a gift in really nice gift wrap and all these paper products, like there's so much coolness to that. I love the idea of like Christmas trees that have these ornaments that like every year there's a whole new batch of them, and it's very exciting, and there's series, and they're collectible. It's Pokemon crack for little old ladies. And like we have the premiere and the debut, because there's so many ornaments that we have to do half of them in July and the other half in October. It's like this big event, and obviously, yeah, it's to make money, but like so is anything that's worthwhile. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, and people love it. The other thing too is people complain about the price of a card. It's Subway sandwiches, and like you give me a card and say, why is this $4.99? And it's like, because you added bacon like 16 times. Like I can explain to you, like it has embossing, it has the golden foil, it has some lace around it, it has like this texture, this picturing, like it's this size, and like those are all like little details that people who are Hallmark fans, they love that shit. They love it, and it's something that I really think that, like, I really hope we don't lose sight of it. Sorry, I'm filibustering a little bit. The last thing I want to mention is this controversy. It reminds me of when I was working there. There was a Hallmark controversy over a Hoops and Yo-Yo card. Hoops and Yo-Yo, they're like Minions, except like 20 goddamn times more annoying. They're awful. I completely hate them. They're like the worst, right? Like, people would come and they'd be like, "Oh, I love Hoops and Yo-Yo. They're so funny," and I kind of grin like, "Yeah." But
this is like 2 seconds. It's not even the biggest part of the thing. It's more the dialogue at the beginning of it.
what
Like,
about
from
it?
what I can see, you know, this advert, like, it doesn't. The kiss doesn't seem to be important.
No, yeah, it's just
Literally
it's
2
their
seconds.
little kiss, and then it's a very, very humorous, very light commercial. Like, it's not very serious, but what I wanted to
Maybe
mention
that's
was that there was this
no.
Hallmark controversy over a Hoops and Yo-Yo card where it was outer space themed, and they're talking back and forth in very fast, high pitched voices, and they mentioned the word black hole, right? And some people heard this and thought, are they saying black hoe? Are they racist? Are they saying black hoes? And it's like, it's clearly an outer space themed card. They're talking about black holes. Like, the whole black hole makes no sense. Hallmark, they did not want any implication of racism, so they pulled the card. We had to destroy all the cards. I had to physically rip these cards in half and throw them in the garbage. And these are sound cards. These are like $6 cards, you know, like. So Hallmark, it's not that they don't like lesbians, it's that they don't like anyone being offended by anything, and they will fold and cave to anything. And people like getting up in arms like, oh, they're anti-lesbian. It's not even that, because in the past they did it over like anti-racism.
So, a question for you, Stacey, because speaking of Hallmark, and I believe this ornament was with Hallmark. If it was, you probably remember it, or at least heard of it. I remember a while back there was a controversy. Well, it wasn't a big one, but it was talked about a little bit.
The Gone with the Wind ornament?
No, not the Gone with the Wind one. Although I could see definitely, yeah, that would, yeah. No, the song, the line with "Adorn your gay apparel." I remember there was an ornament that got designed, and it said "Adorn your joyful apparel." They removed the gay from it, and it was interesting seeing the reactions to this. Which my reaction was, "That's stupid." I understand context, first of all. I understand that when this was written, gay was not a main reference to, obviously, homosexuality. And I just found that very, very interesting, because I believe that was Hallmark. I mean, I'm not going to swear to it, but I do know that they do create ornaments with lyrics, or they do sell ornaments with lyrics on them. I've seen them. So I think this one was Hallmark, but I remember there was a response to it, and they obviously didn't make anyone happy, because people were bitching about it both ways. They thought they were coming at it in a very PC fashion, and it just didn't go well.
So here's what I can say about that. There's two kinds of Hallmark stores. Some of them are corporate stores. Some of them are independently owned stores. The independently owned stores can sell ornaments that are non-keepsakes. The Keepsake brand is like Hallmark's official ornaments. I worked at a corporate store, so we only sold ornaments that were official Keepsake ornaments. They're in the catalog. They come in the white boxes. They're collectible, all that stuff. There's actually a KOC club. Like, little old ladies gather together and have like a fan club for like ornaments and like trade them, which is like the cutest thing ever. I love it. I love it. But So it may have been an independent Hallmark store selling like a non-Hallmark ornament, or it might actually be one of the official Hallmark ornaments, because I'm not exactly an encyclopedia on that. It's a very, very rich and diverse culture. But what I will say is I am actually sympathetic to that sensibility, because if you take a song lyric and then put it into text, that has like a permanence to it and an intensity to it that just hearing it in the context of that song does not. And I can totally see how they're like, dude, if we put "Don Ye Gay Apparel" on an ornament, everyone's gonna think about gay stuff. And like that's where my mind goes. I think about gay stuff, like if they say gay on it, and I think that happens to anyone. So I can see why they would do it that way, and I don't think it's necessarily like a like a Christian, anti-gay, homophobic sort of a motivation. I think it's mostly just about money, which I think is totally justified. But on the same time, at the same token, it's like, why not just not do that when there's like a million other things you could do?
Oh no, absolutely. Hold on one second. I think I found an article in reference to it. One second.
Mish, did you have any thoughts? Because I know we have so much to say today.
I know we do.
What about the advert, or what in particular?
Well, just in general, just because I know that we've kind of been running off. I didn't know if you had any. Because I sort of cut off your train of thought when I wanted to talk about the hoops and yo-yo card, and then we spiraled off into another thing.
I was just going to say, this is a big nothing burger, isn't it? I mean, they pulled the ad for whatever reason. I think it was probably they weren't satisfied with it for whatever reason. Maybe it just didn't meet the requirements. It got pulled, right? They never actually aired this.
Well, I think they aired it. There was a backlash. They pulled it, but then I think Kevin, you were saying they put it back.
Yeah, it got put back. Once I just was, I actually got rid of it because. All right, 1 second.
Yeah, and it's just, and this goes back to what I've been saying about the company, is like, it's really just that they cave immediately to whatever backlash. So they get a lash, they get a backlash, they get a front lash, they get a lash in any direction, and Hallmark's sitting there like, how do I not piss people off? I'm so sorry, right? And the irony is that by kind of admitting and justifying all of the offense in every direction, it almost exonerates them, because they're sitting there like, we don't have any principles, okay? We're just trying to make people not upset, and if people are upset too much in one direction, we're just going to fold to them all the time.
We just want to make money. Buy our
so
car.
yeah, I am finding it here. There's one. Hallmark says it will reinstate TV ads featuring same-sex couple after outcry. And that is from December 16th.
Okay, yeah.
So
that's the thing, right? Is like, ultimately, what I wish is people would just stop apologizing, just not respond to this kind of thing, unless it's like a really, really good argument, you know?
See, you know what's interesting? Yeah. Like, lesbian kisses used to elicit excitement, but now it's just like, you just roll your eyes at it now.
Is that the sentiment? Because this is coming from a straight man. To me, this is news.
Yeah. Well, I'm not really into lesbian stuff anyway. I think it's boring. I mean, I know it's the biggest porn for straight guys, but I've always found it boring. So
you're more into traps.
I'm not into traps.
That's hate.
But it's just, you know, it used to be a big thing, and like everybody would be excited. But nowadays, it's just, oh god, here we are, another lesbian kiss. Oh, you know, like the Legend of Korra and things like that. Like, it's just, I think a lot of people think it's forced nowadays, if you think about it, as opposed to this is a natural thing, you know.
Yeah, and that goes right back to what Kevin was saying at the beginning of this, which is that, like, if like people are using gayness as a gimmick, and it's like that's kind of what always happens with gay advocates and gay activists, is that like talking about gay things. It's always to some other aim, you know. It was always to some political motivation or some social engineering or whatever. If that's, you know, if you're into that kind of theory, I'm sympathetic to those theories. Full disclosure, but or in this case, it's just like a cheap gimmick for like entertainment or for like a vapid kind of signaling. And I'd really like to see more gays speak up and say, like, stop using like this weird, this like idiosyncratic like aspect of my identity as some means to your ends, right? And I just, you know, there's a lot of talk about like in the black community getting off the Democratic plantation and thinking for yourself and all that, and like I think some of that rhetoric needs to get copy and pasted straight onto the gays, because the gays have been allowing these activists and advocates to exploit homosexuality as a means to their ends, to support different narratives and other ends. And it needs to be something that's just kind of allowed to exist in all its imperfection for what it is, and in the context that it belongs, not just like randomly here and there. Or for
here's the thing for me. I mean, well, I told you if you saw my Facebook post that I actually just switched parties myself. I did. I just switched parties myself. I've been a registered Democrat for the majority of my adult life.
How dare
you? I know. I just recently switched. I actually am now a registered Republican. Which a post about that on Facebook got me a 24-hour ban. So there's that.
Well, yeah, because you included the gay Klansman in it.
That was funny, though. I'm sorry. I have no regrets when it comes to that.
You're not telling the whole story. Okay?
It's okay. So it's funny because what I did was, oh God, let me find my post, because it was reported in a group. And interestingly enough, I know the person that reported it is a Republican, because of course, so basically, this was my comment, and it's also on Twitter. Day 2 of being a gay Republican. I'm not at this level yet, but I do feel myself building up to it. And that's referencing to the picture. And the picture is a bunch of Klansmen. They're black in pink Klans attire. And the sign they're holding says, "Gay Black Jewish Klansmen for Tolerance and Understanding." And so I shared that, and this guy, he's like, the Klan was Democrat founded. And I was like, well, that's part of the joke. Duh. And regardless, we had interactions, and then suddenly that post is reported and I'm banned for 24 hours.
Wow.
But yeah, but back to the point. I mean, that you were talking about the Democratic Party. There really is there's this pandering, just straight up pandering. And to be honest, there is this feeling of it's not so much the gays being forgotten about. That's really not so much the thing. I mean, to be honest, the goal always was, especially during my years as an activist, I remember when I first became an activist, I had an activist say something to me that I took to heart. One moment, I'm just messaging. I'm trying to message Peter right now, Peter Boykin.
Hopefully he'll hop on. That'd be cool.
Yeah, hopefully. But I took this to heart. I had an activist tell me that the job of an activist is to create a world where they're no longer needed. That is the goal of an activist. And I took that to heart. And that was how I saw my ultimate goal was to create that world, was to work towards a world where my services wouldn't be needed. However, activism has definitely strayed far from that because it became profitable. You have a lot of organizations.
Sorry, I'm going to correct you on that. It strayed away from that, not because it was profitable. I mean, to a degree, that's true, but because it was political. And that's true. The key difference is that it's big government types who don't want to automate away or to erase their own utility. They want to preserve their utility. And essentially, they're a bunch of Luddites. They're a bunch of anti-technology, anti-progress, anti-capitalist parasites.
They just want neo-feudal.
That's what you see in women's advocacy, is they're rape farmers. They want to create more rapes, whether they're real rapes or not real rapes. They need more rape in order to be a rape activist. They don't want to end rape.
Well, you got to remember, they're only anti-technology insofar as they want us to use fossil fuels. They want us to be the ones who have to deal with shitty paper straws and bags while they have everything high-tech.
Yeah, there is kind of the champagne socialist angle to it as well. But I get also it is profitable in the sense of, like, if your cause is something that's socially popular and socially digestible, then yes, you can, like, get a bunch of money that way.
I think it's
absolutely.
I would say that, with speaking as a minority myself, I think things are slowly changing. I mean, especially in this country, I think one of the pundits in this country mentioned that I think, even though it's, as far as we know, it hasn't been measured, though I assume YouGov did, who do all the polling. In the recent election, they reckon a lot of Sikhs and Hindus voted Conservative, which doesn't surprise me. A lot of them are private business owners.
Well, I mean, I think in general. So, I mean, obviously now we have a lot of discussion about conservatism across the board. But I also think one of the things that, at least from people who don't follow international politics, and I mean, Mitch, I don't know how you feel about this, about different countries comparing what it means to be liberal and what it means to be conservative by each country's standards. I mean, for example, what happened, the UK, obviously, with Boris Johnson. I know there's a lot of discussion about that, about is that something coming with America? And it's like, yeah, but you can't really compare exactly the conservatives there to conservatism here in America.
It's not
and for me,
ideology. It's more like
yeah.
shifts and trends within demographics. You can see it even with Trump's election. There's more Hispanics voting for him, more black men, not really black women.
He got more than Romney. He got a higher percentage than Romney, and that gets completely ignored. That's what's interesting. He got a higher percentage than Romney, which says something. I'm sorry, the Democrats don't want to admit that. The mainstream media doesn't, but it does say something that he got more than Romney. And it's just interesting because I mean I by no means would I consider myself a Trumper. To be honest, I still consider him, basically I consider him arrogant, and he has the emotional maturity of a toddler.
He's also a socialist. Like, I'm sorry, he's a left-wing socialist. Yeah. like our politics in America are to the right of everything in the UK. America's a communist country. I love that it's fashionable right now for Americans to bash China, and I'm like, well, who are you to judge? Like, your country's already communist. It's been communist for a century, and then we're supposed to be right wing of what's happening in the UK. So the only joy I've had from this UK election landslide has been just making fun of all of the salt and all the people who think that Boris Johnson is gonna inject their dying grandmother with cancer for fun and then destroy the NHS and then laugh about it and dance on her grave.
I just love that he basically does look a lot like Trump's little brother. But it's amusing. What's interesting to me is for me personally. So there are the issues that why I switched to Republican. Is because I started thinking about a lot of different things over the past couple of years. And in our prior stream, in remembrance of Prince, I referenced that, he played a role in that. I was starting to question a lot of things. And one of that is definitely the role of government. And I've thought back on a lot of the fights that I've taken part in regards to, what I see as equality, and I realized that a lot of the issues that as an activist, I worked to address, whether it was pushing it through, the legislative process, arguments, with court and with the courts and stuff like that. A lot of that fight was undoing or addressing government sticking its nose where it shouldn't have been anyways. There would never have been any need, for the fight over, with sodomy laws if government had never put its nose in people's bedrooms to begin with. There would never have been the fight over marriage if government had never stuck its nose in marriage. However, it has, and it is what it is, and government does not take its nose out of something once it's in there. But regardless, I started actually paying attention to this and really thinking about it on a deeper level, besides in the present. I actually started thinking back to it, and I'm like, well, if I want to prevent a future generation of activists from having to address these issues, then why not work on fighting big government now? And once I started on that train of thought, it's kind of like once you see something, once you realize something, there's no going back from it. And once I started to see that, what?
That's the red pill.
Yeah, well, yeah, I know, the red pill. Although I don't hear that reference a lot lately, a lot anymore. But yeah, that is the red pill, and you can't unsee that, and that's how things started happening in regards to the community for me. One of the things, and I know we've gotten away from the Hallmark thing, but and this would be my last point to this, is one of the first real turning points for me. Was one of the big ones, was when it came, interestingly enough, to the discussion of religion. So as an activist, I often I'm critical of organized religion in general. I specifically mention organized religion because I have no problem with people being religious and having their faith. It provides a great deal of strength for a number of people. I know even in my family, both my parents have passed, and each time believing, that belief in faith and prayer helped so many people in my family get through that. So I acknowledge the good with that, but with that said, so I focus on organized religion specifically with my criticisms. Now, I would make posts often during my activist days, especially in regards to the Christian religion, because that's what main focus here in America, and it would be criticizing them for views on homosexuality or what I saw as hypocrisies, and it would get a ton of likes and shares and positive comments. So but I'm very much, I focus on all. I remember one of the first times I made a post criticizing Islam and its treatment of homosexuals. I got a lot of hatred. There seriously were like 20 comments from friends saying that this was insensitive, that I shouldn't attack a minority religion. And I'm like, are we really going to say minority religion on a global context? Anyways, but I was, and they were like, this is coming across as racist. I was like, Islam is not a race. But it was very interesting for me. And it was one of those eye-opening experiences that they didn't apply, the application of their thought process was not applied across the board. And that was when I really started paying closer attention to the hierarchy and where the LGBT community actually fell in regards to the left and the Democrats. And I was like, wow. I was like, yeah, it's about whatever group they can use as the most oppressed at the moment, and any other group that's not there gets tossed aside or at least put to a lower level on that totem pole, and will be brought up during elections for sure. But aside from that, they're a lot less valuable than they once were. And that was when I was like, yeah, all that just came together, and I eventually just had to say goodbye. So yeah, a couple of days ago, and a lot of people were like, why didn't you go independent? And I was like, well, to be honest, in my local area, I'm in a very blue state. And I honestly think that I can have a better impact as a Republican at the end of the day than even as an independent in my area. So yeah, that's where I am today in regards to that. So I know I pretty much stole your whole criticism of the left and the Democrats in regards to the LGBT community.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is I just don't think there's an important difference between the two parties, which is a little bit black-pilled. I know a lot of people are very excited about, so-called conservative victories, but the way I see it is the definition of conservatism is secular justification for religious traditional values. And there's a lot of value in that, right? Because a lot of the times when you have a religious justification for something, the reason that these became traditions within the religion is that they're very useful and there's a lot of merit to it. And to go back and to think of the secular justification, often it actually does make a lot of sense. And that's why you see so much congruence between conservatism and libertarianism. Ultimately, I'm a libertarian, and I'm trying to drag the conservatives into the light, but they fight me kicking and screaming because they just think I'm like a degenerate, which, like, fine, I'll own that, okay. But
so
I think that we can do conservatism better than you. And the point you made about, like these answers were in libertarianism long, long ago. And a lot of these values and principles were actually thrown away and were squandered. And I think that's like a huge part of the issue.
All right. So, by the way, I do want to start, because I think this would be a great spot right now, is Peter Boykin. He had to download it on his phone. He's actually currently driving.
Tell him to stop responding to messages while he's driving, because the reason we're here right now is because of deaths due to accidents, and he shouldn't do that unless he's pulled over.
Yeah.
Sorry to be a douche.
Yeah, no, I know.
That wasn't a message for him
He's-
so much as just a general reminder, and one that, personally, obviously, I need that as well.
Yeah, no, because he wants to join us. I know that he does. Well, I'm not sure if is everyone here aware of. Well, I know Mitch. Are you aware of Peter Boykin at all?
He's gay, Trump supporting, conservative, so he's kind of right in the ballpark of what happens here.
He founded. He's founder. At least I know for sure, co-founder of Gays for Trump. So he actually is wanting to join the conversation.
Yeah, so we'll see when he shows up. We'll go over some of that. And one thing I did want to mention is I got a response from Natty. So it's 3 a.m. over in the UK. I totally lost track. I can't believe it's already 11 over here. Oh my god. So
I think he might be ready to hop in.
But she asked me to read some comments from her. She said, I really liked Prince of Queens, and I loved his suggestions to me. And I think with the suggestions, what she's referring to was this idea of having some kind of group related to mothers of like MRA mothers, which I think is brilliant, because this whole Hallmark article is partially about this millions of mothers response to a thing. And you know what, the men's rights movement, we've tried every single card in the deck, and that's one that is suspiciously absent. And it's one that, despite that, like, we've known this for a long time, that some of the best MRAs are mothers, because they sit there, they think, this could be my son, holy crap. And it's like, you'll see like radical feminists who completely like shift gears and then realize, like, crap, like, now that I have a son, I realize like these are real issues. So I think that this is a force that we should be empowering. So I hope
absolutely.
that this comes together. It's a brilliant idea.
Peter Boykin just wants to clarify that it's good for him to pop in. He's actually ready to pop in. It seems.
To hop on in.
Okay. All right, so I let him know to hop on in. I think that really is an untapped resource overall, is mothers and their relationship with their sons. I think that that's something. I'm not personally affiliated with MRA or anything like that. Ironically, I once identified as a feminist, funny enough, but I do very much identify with many of the talking points and acknowledge a lot of the truths there. And I do think getting mothers involved in that is very crucial to it, because especially when you have the modern wave of feminism going after the MRAs, and if you have mothers standing up to them, as pretty much saying, that sends a very different message, not just to feminists, but to the world in general. So
yeah, because people aren't going to go anti-mother. It's a really, really bad look, and it's one of the reasons that we can't get rid of welfare, which actually ties into something in the chat that I want to address. Patricia, who's a friend of the stream, I love seeing her contribution here. She said, they have a theory about feminists being secret rape fetishists. Yes, that's 1,000% true. I believe feminists are secret rape fetishists due to how obsessed they are with it. Absolutely. She asked me earlier, maybe she deleted it, but she had asked the question, how is Trump a socialist? And basically it's because America's a socialist country.
Peter Boykin made a face with that.
Hi,
Peter Boykin's in the stream now.
So I'm going to say some things and you can respond to it. We have introduced you in preparation for you hopping in here, but I just wanted to answer this idea to defend. I had accused Trump of being socialist because America's got big government welfare. We have regulations on licenses, on jobs. We have minimum wage. We have like all kinds of price controls. We have tariffs. We have protectionism. We have so much government meddling in the economy. We have the Federal Reserve. We're all forced to use the dollar, and then the Federal Reserve messes with it and creates taxation through price inflation, through the debasing of the currency by robbing the unborn. All of your standard Ron Paul libertarian talking points, all of this has been true for decades and decades and decades. you know. So yeah, and I don't like to concede any of that ground because I really feel like the Republicans have generally really sold out America, and I get that, you know, there's politics involved, there's pragmatism, there's whatever, but that's why I describe things as socialist and as communist. I don't believe that anything to the left of libertarian minarchism is worthy of distinction. To me, it's just all communism all the way down. You're just turning up the heat on the frogs you're boiling. So thanks for indulging my little rant there. So that was a little bit rude. Forgive me, Peter. I'm really happy that you've shown up here. I gave you shit for responding to messages while driving. So if you wanna,
that's half the stuff I get done.
But I know that you're a big Trump supporter, which is cool, and that, you know, a lot of what you do, it's kind of squarely in the spirit of what we've done on this podcast for, you know, it's been about a year now. We kind of re-kickstarted the Gaytriarchy at the beginning of the year with Karen Strawn, and it was a lot of just dissident gays, conservative gays who don't kind of carry that same narrative that's generally prescribed to us. So do you want to tell us a little bit about what you do, where you're sitting at, and, you know, whatever you feel like, whatever you're feeling right now?
Sitting in a random gas station parking lot. I think they're closed to get some light. I drive for a living, and pretty much because of my standing, it's hard to find a job. So in my field, which is supposed to be IT, here I'm sitting in North Carolina, it's supposed to be the IT capital. But other than that, you know, I am one of the founders of Gays for Trump, and but that's not everything I do. As what we do preach, that being gay is not everything in my whole life. But I'm now running a podcast called Go Right with Peter Boykin. So that's now what I'm doing. I wanted to be a charity, but to hell with the charity part of it. I'm too political to be a charity. So it's all about getting the right people elected, and that could be people on the right, that could be people on the left, but more towards the right. The whole point of view is the people who are on the left, the Democrats, if they don't want to leave the Democrat Party, they can at least go a little bit more to the right, which is the middle, which the right has actually moved to the left, to the middle, and trying to get the two-party systems to work together. Now, on your note with the socialism thing, I don't know. Donald Trump was brought into the same system we've already had, and the feds won't listen to him anyway, which I'm always trying to figure out. We've got three branches: legislative, executive, and judicial. When the hell did we vote or put in the fact that there's a financial division of the government? So why does the feds get the control as much, and why can't Donald Trump make them do what he wants them to do? I ain't been able to figure that one out. But other than that, you know, I do as much activism as I can. I will hopefully be running for U.S. Congress in the very near future, not 2020. Can't do 20. Trump. This is Trump time. I did run previously in the midterms, but you have to build the district up before you can really run. There's a mad dash around here on who's running for office, but I'm not getting involved until I know that I can win. So that's like Trump. Why would you get involved unless you know you're going to win? Or at least have a damn good chance of winning.
Yeah, well, and what's interesting is our point of departure, it actually parallels the relationship between, like, the men's rights movement and MGTOW, which is that, like, MGTOW, they hope the MRM succeeds. They just kind of disagree that there's much utility in it. And that's kind of more my perspective, is, like, as an ANCAP, I'm a little bit suspicious of whether or not there's utility in politics. But that being said, I'm really glad that you're doing what you're doing, and I really hope you have a lot of success. Like, if you were running in a place that I could vote, you know, that might be one of the rare situations where I say, yeah, let's, like, suspend my principle of not wanting to ever vote.
Anyway, guys, I have to get going now because it's really late. But it was nice speaking to you.
It was nice having you.
Nice remembering Prince of Queens. You know what? This doesn't have to be the end of the Gaytriarchy, just so you know. I don't think he would have what he does to stop this. I think you should continue at Space Pan, personally. I've got my own podcast as well, which I'll be doing tomorrow. Spacepan, if you want to watch that later. So anyway, I've got to go to bed. So see you later, guys.
Yeah, well, Mitch, I'm really happy that you stopped
See you
by.
later.
I think you
I know,
had
yeah.
been on a couple of times that since we restarted it, and
Once or twice? Yeah.
it was more than once, right? I'm not crazy.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Once or twice. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was always fun to have you on here. Sorry we caught you on kind of the later end because we had planned like all these things. So by the time we finally got around to this portion of it, it was a little bit late.
Don't worry about it. The important thing is remembering Prince and giving him a good send off.
No, absolutely. And I'm glad that you're a part of that here. And yeah, we'll actually, and of course, this of course, I've called it the final Gaytriarchy, but that does not mean it's the end. We'll all continue kind of doing what we do in our own way.
This is not the end. This is merely the beginning.
There we go.
Or the end. Anyway, see you later, guys.
See you later. So, Peter, just to give you a little bit of that so you understand where we are, Spacepan and I, we were just paying respects to a friend of ours who passed away recently. He was a YouTuber, Prince of Queens.
What happened?
Yeah. Well, I know Spacepan, you know more of the details with that. I mean, you've been coming.
Yeah, you can
well, he he recently passed. But the point is, he was a YouTuber who really focused on the left and in regards to specifically feminism, often in relation to the LGBT community, gay men especially, men's rights, the rights of men and boys, and he was very passionate about it. He was a friend to all of us, and he recently passed away. So before this stream, we did a stream in honor of him, and he. What he had was there was how often it was weekly, correct, Spacepan? The Gaytriarchy was weekly for a while, right? I'm not hearing Spacepan, but it was called the Gaytriarchy.
Sorry, you started asking me questions, and okay, since you started talking, I figured I've got at least enough minute to get up and take a piss.
No, don't worry.
I did. I accomplished that, so I can answer your question.
You accomplished it.
Prince of Queens, he had an unfortunate accident. He died fairly early. He was in his kind of mid-30s, so pretty young. It was very unexpected. We did a podcast together weekly called Gaytriarchy, and we brought in different voices, primarily to discuss issues facing men and boys. But since we're both gay, it was kind of naturally from a gay perspective, but it was a gay perspective that was anti-feminist. And because of that, that's why Gaytriarchy, it's a play on patriarchy, obviously. We're kind of poking fun at that entire theory. So we had a singular aim, and part of it was to kind of give voice to dissident gays, to gays that don't really fit the same mold, to kind of put it out there that, to gay men that you don't need to follow this narrative, and it's not serving you, and there's a lot to be said for for speaking your own mind and for supporting ideals that may be a little bit more conservative or libertarian or even traditionalist, dare I say. But then also a kind of a message to everybody else to say, gays are not a monolith. And even though we have this whole body of activists who speak on our behalves, they don't necessarily speak for us, and we are, not the same as them. So that was some of kind of the idea of it. But then, of course, under that umbrella, there's actually a surprising number of different directions to go. And you actually were someone who I had mentioned to him, like he'd ask me, who should we have as guests? Because we tried to have a new guest each time. And I'm glad that you've come here now, because
I've talked to him.
Yeah, we have a new guest now.
I think I was on his because I've talked to him a couple of times. He was one of the first podcasts I really did watch, because I wasn't sure if but I liked what he said. And
so you were aware of Prince, okay?
Yeah, that's why it's like, whoa, wait a minute, I didn't know, because I was just the other day, and I was thinking about having him on or trying to work with him. So that's shocking.
Yeah, well, I guess we've kind of come full circle in that way. We got you on here eventually, but obviously these are not the ideal circumstances of that.
Yeah.
But
I hate to be, well, because I'm the type of person, because I'll get too emotional if I don't make some sort of thing about it. But it was an accident, right? He had nothing on Epstein or, Hillary or anything like that, right?
Yeah, right. I mean, here's the thing, though. I mean, he was the conspiratorial type. He would not be offended by anybody entertaining any notions. So, we were all about questioning things. But definitely his channel was muted. His Twitter was definitely shadow banned, and that was.
Yeah, I remember.
He was effective. He was effective, and he was reaching people
Twitter
that
before I was
been
kicked
reached.
off. Before I was shadow banned and then suspended, we talked to each other a little bit on Twitter. But of course, I can't pull up any of those conversations because of Twitter. Which I'm on Twitter kind of now, but I kind of pull it as a group, so hopefully they'll leave me alone. I don't know.
I'm really lucky because I'm definitely not quite shadow banned because I don't think anybody has quite noticed me yet. But I think the moment anyone cares about my channel, it's getting immediately nuked. I'm sitting here just there's probably a half a dozen videos on just that alone. You could just throw it away on. But one thing I want to throw out real quick. Hashtag real name in the chat mentioned that he has created an archive, which I'm gonna go ahead and move away from this Hallmark article. I think we discussed everything important to that. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull this up.
You missed out on it a little bit, Peter, but it's boring.
POQarchive.com.
If they're gonna
let me see here. Sorry, go ahead.
Mark or Ballmark.
Sorry, what about Hallmark?
Yeah, Ballmark. Just Ballmark.
Hey, Spacepan worked. Spacepan
worked
I
love Hallmark. Don't speak ill of Hallmark. I love them very much. I have a lot of unironic dedication and loyalty to that corporation. I think they're great. No, because honestly, when you're in college, right, and you get your retail job, there was a time where it was impossible if you didn't. I had 2 years of retail experience, and I was in college, and I was looking for a part-time job, and nobody would hire. Nobody would hire ever. And I applied to Walmart, I applied to McDonald's, I just walk up and down the streets, apply to literally every single place. Me and my friend, we put in over 30 different job applications to all kinds of places, and never got a call back on any of them. We tried to follow up with some of them, and eventually the one place where I was able to get a job was Hallmark, and it ended up being great because I got paid more than I would have at Walmart, and it's a great job with not a lot of heavy lifting. Gotta worry about paper cuts. Here's some Hallmark trivia you guys will love. The envelopes you put behind the cards, you put it so that the flap of the envelope is on the left side. Do you know why? Because most people are right-handed. So they're less likely to get a paper cut. Right? And that's the sort of attention to detail in it. Yeah, so if you're left-handed, that's we could actually create some advocacy for the left-handed people. That Hallmark is setting up traps.
There's identity politics that we have not had identity politics aimed towards the left-handed yet. We need to get that going.
And this is intersectional, right? This is left-handed old ladies at the Hallmark, right? They're old, they're female, they're left-handed. This is an unspoken, unsung minority class, and you're only going to hear that. That mentioned. So, this is right-handed patriarchy, right-handed supremacy, and why are the SJWs silent on it? Where are the feminists? Where's Jessica Valenti and her goddamn stupid book about this issue?
Left-handed OK symbol.
Yeah, right.
The left-handed
we need the left-handed OK symbol. Very good. It's KO for knockout.
So what was the next one we were going to talk? Were we going to go on to J.K. Rowling? Was that our next one?
Talk about that. Peter, have you heard about this?
No, I haven't followed her because I try not to follow the people that publish the books and stuff that I like because it'll just piss me off about the story. But
well, this is interesting though.
I also like Harry Potter, and because the SJWs have championed it, so many people just like reject Harry Potter, and I'm trying to tell them like, no, like. You're just being a Gryffindor, and the Gryffindors would love it if you actually read it. But sorry, before I pull that up, I just want to throw it out there again in case anyone missed it. The archive of his videos are up. It's poqarchive.com. So there's actually a very nice message here. I'm gonna read this. It says Prince of Queens video archive. Prince of Queens was best known for his work on YouTube, sharing his perspective as a gay man on topics such as men's rights, anti-feminism, and anti-communism. Prince of Queens died after an accident at home due to his prescription medication causing him to become disoriented, resulting in a fall where presumably he hit his head. He was found by his mother and died later in hospital. The archive is a copy of his YouTube channel that was downloaded at the highest quality possible. All videos are owned by Prince of Queens, though a single Karen Strawn video was part of his feminism playlist and has been included in order to preserve the playlist's narrative. And then we have a link to the downloads here. One thing I just want to add is there are some videos that he did not post on YouTube. So, and maybe I'll kind of go through and try to grab a few of those later on today. Some that he had only put either on Minds or on BitChute. But of course, on BitChute, we don't have the worry that like they're just going to go and deactivate his channel. That's part of the motivation for doing this right away, is that we know that on YouTube, if you die, they'll use that as a reason to remove your channel. As opposed to doing what they do on Facebook, where they kind of convert the page into a memorial page. I think that Susan, if you're listening, Susan, I know you've got your eyes on me. I know that you're looking for the reason to ban me eventually. If you're listening, Susan, you should make these channels memorial pages. Replace the subscribe button with like a remember button. Anyway, sorry, I just wanted to make sure I had that out there. I'm going to go ahead and
absolutely. Okay.
Susan.
Yeah, no, Peter. I think you will. Peter, I think you'll find this interesting with J.K. Rowling. This situation here, she is pretty much kind of being labeled a TERF by some. So this is interesting. But yeah, I have to admit, I when I heard of it, and I actually didn't really look into it until today, and I was like, wow, this really is a new level of stupid on the part of the left. So, but yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's all very predictable, you know, and you know, you reap what you sow. J.K. Rowling, she made everyone gay. She's the biggest gay recruiter since ever. My favorite satire article was J.K. Rowling reveals that you, the reader, were gay the whole time, right? Like, but yeah.
Totally.
So I have J.K. Rowling canceled by woke outrage mob for saying biological sex is real. This is from InfoWars. It's the Paul Joseph Watson article. We're reading InfoWars articles because, you know, fuck it. I love InfoWars. I don't care what anyone says. Harry Potter. The actual tweet? Yeah, she's the Harry Potter author. J.K. Rowling has been canceled by the very woke outrage mob she helped create after tweeting her support for a woman who was fired for saying men cannot change into women. Rowling returned to Twitter for the first time in months to show solidarity with Maya Forstater, who lost her job at the Center for Global Development, a think tank that campaigns against inequality, over a tweet that's more than a year old. What I'm so surprised at is that smart people I admire, who are absolutely pro-science in other areas and champion human rights and women's rights, are tying themselves in knots to avoid saying the truth that men cannot change into women because that might hurt men's feelings, tweeted Forstater in September 2018. After Forstater was fired, numerous prominent public figures came out to support her, including Rowling. Dress however you please, call yourself whatever you like, sleep with any consenting adult you'll have, live your best life in peace and security, the 54-year-old tweeted. But force women out of their jobs for stating that sex is real, she asked. For the atrocious thought crime of agreeing that biological sex is real, Rowling faced an immediate mob onslaught, and the hashtag TERF, which of course stands for Trans Exclusionary Radical Feminist, began trending. My daughter, who is trans, is a big fan of yours, said the mother of a transgender daughter. It breaks my heart to see you post something indicating that discrimination against her is perfectly fine behavior for an employee. The world's most credible medical orgs affirm trans people. Please catch up. Over the past couple of years, J.K. Rowling has used her massive platform and influence almost exclusively to destroy the UK left and ruin the lives of trans people, tweeted another user. There is literally no excuse at this point for not knowing that J.K. Rowling is a transphobe who hates trans people, especially trans women, added another. I grew up as a trans child reading your books as an escape. I would often pick out names from characters to give to myself before I ever felt comfortable in who I was. This decision to support people that hate me and want to do me harm, it brings me to tears. Why? Why? Asked another user. Rowling being cancelled is particularly ironic given that she has thrown her weight behind virtually every ludicrous woke crusade in recent years, including her claiming that her character Hermione was black despite being described as having a white face in the Harry Potter books. So that was the Paul Joseph Watson article on it. Any immediate thoughts? I do have a few thoughts, but I want to let you guys talk first before I ramble too much.
But Peter's holding his cranium, so I assume he's just like, what? I mean, well, inevitably this was going to come back. I mean, anyone who's been on the left and who's woken up to it, you experience it, and it's what becomes the wake-up call. If you're smart and you take it as you should, what becomes the wake-up call is when it comes for you. That was what it took for me. I mentioned being an activist and being a registered Democrat, but I often considered myself much more reasonable, much more moderate. I did go further left for a while there. I'd have to say for probably about a span of 1.5 to 2 years, I did go pretty far left, but there were still beliefs that I never stopped, believing in. And eventually it's those values that came back at me when they fell out of popularity with the left, and such as believing, this was never really in popularity with the left. I just started actually expressing it, was, my belief in the Second Amendment, but also my belief in freedom of speech, which actually was a liberal movement on college campuses. The belief that I may not agree with what you have to say, but I'll fight for your right to say it. That was something that we used to preach all the time. I remember very much as a Democrat, as a leftist. And then when I came out as pretty much having those discussions about being pretty much a free speech absolutist. We already have laws. It's illegal to direct someone to kill someone, to harm someone. It's illegal to, that the yelling fire in the crowded room, they always say, they always use that example. But, using the words to cause direct harm is already illegal. So I'm pretty much a free speech absolutist. So obviously the Westboro Baptist Church, for example, absolutely would despise me, but I would lay my life on the line to defend their freedom of speech, because the moment I justify limiting, infringing on their freedom of speech is the moment I justify the eventual limiting and oppression of my freedom of speech, attack on my freedom of speech. And so this is something I believe. And when I started expressing these views, that's when it came back to bite me in the ass. So I think it's interesting because J.K. Rowling is experiencing that. Now, how will she respond to this? I don't know. She might probably publicly she'll walk back from it, but that doesn't change the fact that it impacts her personally. Because I will admit, I'm a stubborn SOB, so I did push back from the beginning, but I still kind of, in a moderate way, pushed back. But it doesn't change the way it impacts you. That's the thing that I think the left doesn't get. When they snap at people for this kind of crap, and the person apologizes, just because that person apologizes doesn't mean the damage has already been done. You sent a message to them that likely resonated with them. And from that, while they may be quiet, that doesn't, you've impacted them in a way that's put you in a negative light. So, for example, I know people who were left-leaning, and because of the way the left has gone here in America, they're quiet about it, but they're going to vote Trump, for example, in 2020. They're quiet about it. They don't mention it at all. But because of their experiences with the current left and because of the crazy that's out there, they are just doing it in secret. And
and it's fairly well documented, too, that when you have like an argument that usually it actually causes people to kind of like balkanize in their beliefs. It kind of reinforces it because of the opposition. And I think that's a little bit of what's in play.
Absolutely. So that's my take on it. Is I think J.K. Rowling. I mean, she obviously has the Harry Potter franchise. You know, all that to think about.
I'm
so
not worried
I think
about her, honestly. Like,
yeah,
I'm not worried about her.
I don't. If she doesn't like do this, I haven't been following closely enough to know if there's been an official apology or anything. But even if she doesn't do that, she's probably not gonna focus on it so much. Regardless, but I do think this has impacted her, and how it's impacted her, that remains to be seen. But Peter, what do you think of it?
Abracadabra, rigor mortis, unrigor mortis. It's gonna be Harry Potter and the I have a penis. So, yes, yeah. I don't know what crazy. Thinking that people are upset because finally somebody's admitting that a man is a man and a woman is a woman. There's no magic skill. There's no magic spell that's gonna make you anything different. So I am so glad she's done with her regular movies. Because otherwise we'd probably have Harry Potter and the Transphobe or some crap. I don't know.
No, it's going to be Harry Potter and the Artificial Uterus. And I got my fingers crossed for it. I'm all in on it. Like, I'm fairly pro-trans. Like, I think that it's, if people want to do what they want to do, that's fine. And I'd love to see science advance to the point where we make that transition more and more possible with less and less risks and to potentially even make it reversible. Like, who knows? The sky is the limit.
He could have been hermaphrodite.
Sorry, what?
Whatever her name is, hermaphrodite.
Yeah, hermaphrodite. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. Well, her face is hermaphroditic, right? Because it can switch from being white and black.
Oh yeah.
There we go. She's the original Rachel Dolezal.
Harry Potter and the hidden third bath.
Well, here's the thing for me with that in regards to trans community. So the interesting thing is I know a number of people, a lot of us do in the community, especially gay men. We know a number of people who are trans, and what's interesting to me is that I actually am aggravated for a lot of people, pissed off for a lot of people in the trans community, or at least feeling a frustration, because a lot of the trans people I know, when they look at what the activists in the trans community, mostly like the non-binary and all that crap, they're like, this is not what we fought for. We don't want this attention. When it came to like the bathrooms issue, the whole focus on bathrooms, trans women and trans men have been using the bathrooms that they identify with for a very long time. This became an issue, I think, because of two introductions. Is first of all, we have the introduction of the non-binary, right? I'm going to use the men's today. I'm going to use the women's tomorrow. And can you create a unicorn bathroom for me to use the day after that? So we have that, and then we have I think what really though brought it to the spotlight was the push into schools. Because up until that point, really, trans adults were, like I said, using whatever bathroom, especially if they passed. No one was checking, doing an in your pants check kind of thing. So I really think it was those two things. Once the non-binary crowd got involved and really highlighted that, and then also once it got into schools, once there was this push to acknowledge or at least support children transitioning, that created
I agree with you. I do think those two things were definitely related to it, because you kind of have to advance that in order to advance like this overall idea. But I think that the real thing that caused all of it was gay marriage becoming legal. Gay marriage became legal. There was no longer any gay issues. So now what do? They needed to add the T, right? And then they needed to make some kind of gay issue. The best they could think of was this like bathroom issue. And I think it's an entirely manufactured drama that's like totally stupid and fake. And frankly, like, when you have this idea of like enforcing like biological sex to be related to bathroom, which was kind of the backlash to it, like all that's gonna end up doing is kicking ugly women out of their bathrooms. that's statistically going to happen 100 times more often than you're going to deny a trap from getting in there, right? Because the traps
and
are
it's
all going to
already
get in. The
happened.
traps are all going to be pretty, right?
We already have examples. I know of a number of articles. I'd have to look them up again. But I remember one specific because I remember she had a very short cropped haircut, dirty blonde. I believe it was a cafe. There was a woman. She wanted to use the women's restroom, and she was stopped. She was so masculine looking, but she's going to use the women's restroom. She is a biological woman, but yeah, she got stopped and they wouldn't let her use the restroom. And it became this whole thing. And it's already happened. It's going to. So, I mean, regardless, this just was like a horrible issue. And like I said, a lot of the people I know who are trans, they look at this and they're like, we never asked for this. What the hell are you talking about? And true, gay marriage really did, because I remember when same-sex marriage became legal. And I remember, I even said this to my husband. I said this to some of my friends who are activists. I'm like, I guarantee you the focus now is going to be on the trans community in different ways, both from the left and...
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
What?
Well, I was just going to say that it was something that Prince of Queens actually had pointed out, is that like the old guard trans people were people who were really defying a lot of norms, and they were making a strong statement. And in order to be trans, like you had to have that level of conviction. And that with this push for acceptance among trans people, we're seeing more of kind of this opposite, where it's like this wishy-washy, back and forth binary thing. It's very non-committal. And then, of course, you have the community of people who are detransitioning, which a lot of them are people who are very regretful. And I imagine that's just going to get larger and larger and larger as we make this barrier, like, I mean, I don't want to say less stigmatized, right? Because to some degree, the stigma's been fought, you know, and it's gone too much the other way.
I think the transitioning back, that's going to get larger and larger and larger the more that the target for allowing to transition gets younger and younger and younger.
Oh, absolutely.
Because
can you imagine being like a 4-year-old and since you were wearing a dress, you got put on hormones, you know? Like, it's awful.
Exactly. But a lot of gay men have even spoke to that. I mean, I know I've done a video on it, and I know other gay men who have made posts about it on social media. Is that I think back to my childhood, and I think about certain attributes. I'm like, oh, thank God I don't have this super left. I didn't have super leftist parents, because let's see, I did play with dolls. My favorite hero was Xena Warrior Princess. I liked playing house, and I think about this, and I'm like, holy shit, would I have been pushed to transition if I had had...
I just want to say this might be very controversial, but I would characterize that as a soft genocide. It's a gay soft genocide.
And it's a homicide.
Yeah, it's a homicide. It's a mass homicide.
It's ways for parents to try to now say, well, I wasn't born with a son, and they act like a girl, I'm going to make them a daughter now. It's a way to try to straighten us out in a different way. And it's so crap. But, you hit the nail on the head about the whole gay marriage transition to the trans issue. I bring it back. If you go back in the old papers, you'll see HRC didn't give a damn about trans people. They didn't give a damn about trans issues. They didn't care about it at all, because we were trying to get marriage. We were trying to do the transitional thing, the adoption, the trans was not a part of that. Also, HRC, leftist mediations, just like an organization was trying to cure cancer. They don't really want to cure cancer because they make money off of it. These organizations make a lot of money, and they're, like I said, has been. When they finally got to the point where we got, and then they didn't want, I've already brought this point up, they didn't want to easily get us our marriage rights, which they could have easily gotten it if they wouldn't have fought with the Christians, because they themselves, instead of saying, we just want marriage in the eyes of the law, We ain't got nothing to do with your religious marriage. We're not trying to change religious marriage. This is just a civil union marriage. Then they wouldn't have had the fight with the Christians. They started with fight with the Christians. The Christians used it to make their money as well. It all became a power struggle over money and advertising. And then now you've got the point where once we got the gay marriage done, it's all about money. Where are we going to go to next? And the trans people, a lot of the Matrix creators, the Weinstein brothers or whatever, they're now sisters. They're now transsexual. They are now women. And so the transsexual is, you don't really see any trans people sticking up for trans rights. You see other people on behalf of the trans. And every transsexual that I've run into has been more of a libertarian than anything. And a lot of them are pissed off about the backroom issue. And I, a long time ago, helped somebody out who got a job, but their voice was still deep. And, you know, I helped them try to find a bathroom at the time. This was way before issue was. But the problem they have now is they are really going too far with children. And honestly, it's child abuse as far as I'm concerned. You should not be allowed to change until at least 16 or so. And that's on their signing. I would be I saw an old video of me. As far as I'm concerned, I'm not feminine gay and I'm not masculine gay. When I was little, I was a kid. I had my hand on the hip and I was like, "Mommy!" I was a little fucking brat. Sorry, cuss, but I was a little brat, gay looking brat. And if my parents were liberal and took the fact that I played with Barbie, well, maybe it's not so much Barbies. I played with Strawberry Shortcake and She-Ra and Cabbage Patch Dolls and stuffed animals and everything else. If they had tried to take me and turn me into a female, that would have been crazy. Can you imagine now with into a female and then they go through puberty and they find out, wait a minute, and you've lopped off their penis? What the hell kind of crap is going on? That's scary. That honestly is child abuse. And they should be forcing, I don't know if you saw that video where the boy was talking and the mama had made him put on a dress and the husband,
Yeah, that was a huge case that had blown up. And I guess,
that was a huge case out of
eventually
Texas.
won that one. I just want to acknowledge really quick here. On my end, it's showing some warnings that apparently the stream's having some issues with like connection. I've been kind of clicking through the options and I'm not seeing anything that's allowing me to either like change the latency or to change the resolution, which ideally would be things that would help fix it. So if you're in the chat and watching, I just want to let you know I'm seeing the notifications. It looks like now our connection is a little bit better. Oh, but I just jinxed it. So
no shit! Look what you did to us. Come on.
But also, I just want to bring it back. So yeah, those are a lot of like really good points that touch on a lot of issues that I think are important to remind people about. As far as like the giving children hormone therapy, things that are irreversible, and how like you can just get labeled that way if you're just like a flamboyant little kid, and it's it is some scary shit. Also,
they're trying to take away.
Sorry, what?
They're trying to take away our cute bottoms, our femboys.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. Can you imagine? It's going to be only the masculine gays. So, I wanted to highlight one part of this article before we put this topic of J.K. Rowling to rest, because this original tweet. What I'm so surprised at is that smart people I admire who are absolutely pro-science in other areas and champion human rights and women's rights are tying themselves in knots to avoid saying the truth that men cannot change into women because that might hurt men's feelings. And, like, that's the part of it that I actually kind of say, fuck you, J.K. Rowling. That this is the perspective that's endorsed. The people who are TERFs, the people who are like very, very anti-trans in this regard, they're not anti all transitioning. they're anti men becoming women specifically. And it's just like homophobia, how it's targeting gay males. It's not targeting lesbians. It's really not. It's targeting men becoming women. And this is so much of the traditionalist rhetoric that kind of annoys me. Because I don't really think it's about hurting men's feelings. I do think that a lot of these, I don't know, like I feel like the animosity is motivated by the perception that they're biological males, but what this is it's a classic scenario of somebody taking what is a male problem, at least a biological male problem, that it's trans women who are biological men who are facing a lot of these issues, and recontextualizing it in a way in order to make women the primary victims. And like the idea that you're a biological female identifying as female who's cis, and you're going to turn around and act like you're discriminated against because somebody who's a trans woman like wants to be accepted. Like, to me, it's like you're the most privileged class. Like, you're all about endorsing privilege. You're all about endorsing identity politics. You're all about women voting without having any of the responsibilities, without being taxpayers. And then you're going to turn around and act like you're the biggest victims ever. And I say, no, screw you. Like, this is one... Like, I'll... Like when trannies go into female sports and then just, like, go into female boxing, just beat the crap out of women, I'm like, good. Like, sorry. Like, this is like sorry.
But okay. So here you bring up an interesting point, because we mentioned earlier, right, about the Hallmark situation in regards to there's been a history I noticed where whether it's a channel, show, whatever they may be, they want to introduce a character LGBT. They go with lesbian first because they see that as a soft introduction, easier introduction, because people respond better to the lesbian characters than they do to the gay male characters, especially in scenes that involve intimacy. Now, what's interesting, though, is that when you look at the trans community, trans men are pretty much paid no attention to. It's trans women that receive that. No, who's really flipping out? The only real flip out I've ever seen, especially relating to youth and trans male, is that situation where there was a trans male wrestler that in Texas who was wrestling girls on girls wrestling and was beating them left and right. However, this youth who identified as a male, trans male, was trying to get on the boys' wrestling team, but wasn't allowed because of the rules. So that's the only time I've ever seen a real focus on trans men in any real extent. So it's because where is there a discussion about trans men entering football or entering boxing or entering any of that? And so it's just interesting how we was talking earlier about one side getting more focus than the other, and obviously it's for different reasons. And when you really kind of analyze that, I think it's an interesting discussion there.
And on the call here, we have a friend of the channel, friend of the Gaytriarchy, Toto, has appeared. How you doing?
I'm good. I just wanted to, join the last Gaytriarchy. I just saw the new Star Wars movie, and that's why I'm late.
I was just gonna say, yeah, you were watching Star Wars, and actually, you had a hot take on it, because anybody who says anything other than it was completely awful and I hated every minute of it, if you say anything but that, your opinion is actually quite transgressive. And
yeah,
you thought it was actually kind of decent. You said specifically you thought it was rushed, and that implies that you wanted to see more.
Yeah, basically they just rushed a lot of the characters and the plots. Like, we didn't get enough how do I say this? Information on them. I also felt that the ending was a bit cliche. I believe that I wanted Palpatine to win, okay? I'm not going to spoil anything, but I wanted him to win because great character.
Because his base got killed.
Yeah. And Palpatine is basically the Ubermensch, and he didn't do anything wrong. Anyways,
And you were sad that the ending of all of Star Wars wasn't that Palpatine just like murders everyone and reinstates the patriarchy, and you're like, damn it! Like, you're saying like maybe this is the greatest troll of all time. Like Palpatine's gonna win in the end. He's gonna like stick his fist into Rey's chest and rip her heart out and eat it, and then just like cuts the credits.
Exactly. You gotta go to kill count,
man. Nobody would complain about that movie.
He gotta go kill lots of feminists, that was nice to see. But
and then Rey says, "But I'm Mary Sue," as like her last words. It's just it's just their last ditch to be like, man, how do we reverse the last two movies of everybody shitting on us? Like, well, we could just go totally the opposite. God, how cool would that be? I think what they should do is when they have a movie, they should just give it to like 5 different directors and just let there be multiple different versions of it.
There you go.
So that we could have that.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, I should send an email. I'm going to send an email and change the world.
Did you notice that you would have never noticed unless they told you was in it? Like, honestly, I was looking for it. Like, where the hell is this lesbian kiss? Oh, there it is. Oh, who gives a shit? Like,
oh yeah, I barely even fucking noticed that. I thought it was gonna be a gay male kiss.
Yeah,
I didn't pay attention to it.
Kiss? Well, that can happen, I guess, in trans world.
I thought it was gonna be Poe and who's the fucking black guy.
Well, okay, so the lesbians,
God damn it,
they can both decide.
I don't even remember his name.
The lesbians can both decide that they're boys later, and then it can retroactively. they can retcon it. They can retcon it like they did everything else in the goddamn movie, right?
Right.
I'm glad we mentioned the lesbian kiss. It ties back to this whole Hallmark controversy and how it was like totally,
I know.
like, they were sitting there like, oh, can't even fap to that. That's not even a thing.
I think we found out that Chewie was a female the whole time, right?
Oh, right. Yeah.
I mean, it's not like we'd already have a homosexual robot in the whole damn movie. I mean, that's C-3PO. Hello! Hello,
I'm pretty good.
Robot.
I just thought he was British, but I guess I'm kind of splitting hairs, aren't I?
I know, yeah. You really are right with that.
I've pulled up our final article, which was...
Yes.
Oh, actually, no, I had 2 others. So I do have another one after this, if we're so inclined. But this one I want to make sure we get to, because I think we're going to have a lot of interesting thoughts on it. This one was the Iowa man gets 15 years in prison over burning LGBTQ flag. And, of course, this article comes from InfoWars, the best source of news ever. And if you disagree, unsubscribe, dislike, go down the fire. InfoWars rules. Alex Jones is an angel. He did nothing wrong. And he loves our Somalis. So the article reads, an Iowa man who was arrested after tearing down and burning an LGBTQ flag that was hanging at a church will spend at least 15 years behind bars, according to reports. Adolfo Martinez of Ames, he's a 30-year-old from Ames, Iowa, which, by the way, Ames, Iowa is where my favorite rapper comes from. Her name is Leslie Hall. She wears gold spandex and gem sweaters, and she showcases these gem sweaters in their natural habitat, which is on a fat white woman with horrible makeup and like a big beehive hairdo. And she does like Midwest diva rap. So just throwing that out there. Ames, Iowa has given us a beautiful gems, but they've also given us Adolfo Martinez, whose hate crime I'm not going to officially endorse. I'm just going to imply that I endorse it. He'll have 15 years for the hate crime of arson, a year for reckless use of explosives or fire, and 30 days for harassment. Which I just want to say, if those are the 3 charges, right? We have hate crime of arson, reckless use of explosives or fire, and harassment. He gets 15 years for the first one, a year for the second one, and 30 days for the third one. I think that's like opposite. I feel like harassment actually bothers a person, right? Like that's the worst one. Reckless use of of explosives or fire, yeah, obviously that's really bad too. And then hate crime of arson, I'm like, oh, that's not even like, who cares? Like that's literally, that should just be free speech. I don't know why that's even a thing. But that's what he gets 15 years for, which is insane and unforgivable, and I disavow it.
Yeah.
I'm just going to cruise through the rest of this article so that we can all ramble. So he's very much
Yeah.
opposed to our support of queer people, said Church of Christ pastor Eileen Gebel, a woman pastor, just throwing it out there, after Martinez's arrest in June. Martinez's actions and words reveal the depth of homo, trans, and queer phobia in our Iowa Nice community. Oh, the horror, Eileen. Okay, after a Story County jury... Story County. That's the county is named Story. Okay. Convicted him guilty of a hate crime in November. Gebel, who's also a member of the LGBT community herself. They added Q, so that literally means nothing. We have no idea what she is. Said the experience changed her opinion of Ames for the better. I often experienced Ames as not being as progressive as many people believe it is, and there still is a very large and closeted queer community here, said Gebel. But 12 people that I don't know, who have no investment in me or this congregation, said that this man committed a crime, and it was a crime born of bigotry and hatred. The hate crime, and they put hate crime in quotes because InfoWars is, like, based and awesome. The hate crime charges were added because Martinez targeted the flag for what it represents as far as sexual orientation, said Story County Attorney Jessica Reynolds. The jury had also convicted Martinez guilty of third-degree harassment and of being a habitual offender. Martinez was arrested shortly after stealing the flag and using lighter fluid with a lighter to burn it outside of Dangerous Curves Gentlemen's Club on June 11th. He went to the bastion of straight male identity, Dangerous Curves Gentlemen Club. That's amazing. I'm sorry, but like, how do homos have no sense of humor that's like the funniest goddamn thing ever? Oh, that's the end of the article too. Wow. Okay. So
oh god, I've actually been reading up on this one.
What do we think, guys?
Okay, so I've actually been reading up on this a little bit more. I still have been researching. So first of all, I just want to know, it's interesting to see a transition when, we worried about, a direct attack on actual, LGBT people, like, bashings. Now we're worried about a piece of fabric being attacked. But regardless, so that to me, I'm just like, seriously, come on. Mind you, these are the same people who celebrate the burning, who are like really will defend the burning of the American flag. So that's interesting.
Which, to be clear, I totally defend that. Sorry if that offends anyone.
No, but here's the thing.
It should have been the Confederate flag. I'm just throwing it out there.
But this is what I'm saying though, is that it's a lack of consistency of thought. To me, I support freedom of speech. Like I said, I'm pretty much a free speech absolutist. I personally would not burn the American flag, but it's a freedom of speech and expression. It's it does fall under that. So does burning the pride flag. I'm sorry. But however though, there is a little bit of, so he got the 15 years, and then there's the two other charges, the year and the 30 days, which is to be served consecutively, which is why it's 15 years. And the big thing, though, is from what I've read so far, is that he's actually a repeat offender in regards to issues of harassment and other things. So that was taken into consideration as well, I believe. And I do feel that the right, as much as I still think this is bullshit, I do think that a lot of people who may be more right-leaning when they're coming at this have not been paying attention to that fact that this is not just the first incident. He didn't wake up and say, oh, today is going to be the first day that I do something like this. Apparently, this is a pattern of behavior that has gotten him in trouble before. So there is that to be considered, that, and you see that all the time, no matter what in law. When you break a law, when you break laws repeatedly, obviously the punishment intensifies. But even with that said, I'm kind of like, the articles I could find didn't really go into depth in regards to what that history was in great detail. I am still trying to find that. However, still 15 years, I'm, like I said, I have my criticisms of how the right is covering this. They're being a bit disingenuous in regards to the whole facts of his history and other behaviors on his part. However, the left celebrating 15 years for burning a pride flag.
Yeah,
Really?
It's monstrous, it's draconian. I will say though, what you added doesn't make me feel any less sympathetic. If prior crimes can include lighting a stupid flag on fire, like, I don't know how much I would even weight that at all. You know, the idea that, like, he's given a warning for something that's victimless, literally victimless, I find, like...
Well, that's the thing, is that the articles I found didn't reference that he had burned a flag before. It just referenced harassment before and other behaviors. And
okay, but
didn't
how
go into
annoying
detail.
were the homos that he harassed? I need to know how annoying they were.
I know, and I've been looking for that. I'm still looking for the details regarding these past incidences. Until I actually understand, until I get all the information and I know the entire context, I am stepping back a little bit, but still right now I am leaning towards 15 years, even if there is a pass of harassment, which that is a very broad notion this day and age, a very broad concept.
Yeah,
I'm kind of like 15 years, really.
Ever since I'm like 15 years. Cyberbullying, harassment means nothing. But final thought, and then I want to give because I think Peter was trying to chime in there.
Okay, but yeah, at the end of the day, like I said, I think I think many elements on the right are being a bit disingenuous because they're not covering that there is some past here. Yes, I'm not sure fully what that is, but there is a history here. So they're being a little bit disingenuous there. But all in all, 15 years is freaking ridiculous to me. So
I know saw the article and I was like, okay, there's got to be something else behind it. I saw the picture of the guy and I was wondering if the guy was like some kind of radical, Muslim or something like that. Was it because he was anti-gay because of that? I mean, 15 years. I mean, honestly, did he burn the church down along with the flag? I mean, if it's just a flag, it's just a flag. They just burnt, a couple American flags out there on 4th of July in Washington, D.C. So there needs to be some kind of consistency in law, regardless of if he's a repetitive. Did he burn like 100 flags? Has he burnt like flags? I mean, hate crime, hate speech depends on what you hate speech is so objective. Like it doesn't make any sense. 15 years. I can put the guy in jail now. Hey, what did you do? I murdered a man. What did you do? I burned a rainbow flag. Get the fuck away from me! Oh my god! Horrible person.
If you really want him to suffer, you could send him rainbow flags as like a gift. Like he'll come on like gift giving day, or checks his mail, gets another rainbow flag. He'll be like, "God damn it!"
So part of me just thought, I'm like, is part of the past incidences here? Does he burn a pride flag every June or something? I'm just.
I do.
And did he get like so many years for each color on the flag? Here we go. If I get
he definitely gets extra years if he burns the version that added like the brown and black parts at the end. Definitely if he burns that version.
I get a black flag and a white flag and burn them both at the same time. Will I get for burning the black flag or the white flag? How about if I burn a yellow flag? How about if I burn a red, a orange, a yellow, a green, a blue, a purple, a black, all the flags? Can I burn the Mexican flag? Can I burn the ISIS flag? Can I burn the Pirates flag? I mean, come on.
Well, did you make a woman cry? That's the ultimate arbiter of justice. Did you make a woman cry? And will she testify? or at least meet to you? Or how about this? Like if you burn like a Chinese flag and a communist flag, or if you burn like a Confederate flag or a flag of someone who we're supposed to hate, like do you then get exonerated? Like if I burn 100 Nazi flags, then do I just get like immunity from the law?
How about if I burn the flag behind what's his name? Liberal guy. Burn that flag.
What if burning a flag is like, I think fire is cool, and I think it's like a celebration, and I want it to be in the air and to spread. Does that expression mean nothing? Is that intention
You mean the
nothing?
bear the bear flag there?
Yeah, I'm gonna burn Kevin's flag. Yep, that's it. 10 years for that one. How many years you get if I burn my flag that's behind me on my podcast, which is the reverse down flag with gold T on it? That's the Trump flag. I might actually get someone to serve prison for me. Maybe I don't know, they'll reverse years. I mean, how do we appeal that decision for this man? Do we all burn flags in a protest outside their jail? You know, I mean, come on.
That would be an interesting notion of freedom of speech. Bring a flag symbolic of some. Just bring any flag that you don't agree with, and we'll all burn them together. All right.
Oh, I want to. Somebody should. They should set up a protest. They should say, "Hey, we're going to burn flags. Is that okay?" And we just show up and burn whatever flag we feel like. You know, we just make sure that the flag's not on someone. You know.
Well, yeah, and here's the thing. This actually goes back to what Kevin had mentioned regarding free speech and how there's certain kinds of speech that tend to get censored under other laws, right? And the underlying principle, I had set up this idea that morality and ethics, they deserve to be two different terms, and it's extremely useful. Now, the best way to understand this is with doxing. There's nothing wrong with doxing. That's one of the most controversial statements, one of the most controversial stances on the internet today. But it's technically true. When people try to say, well, why is doxing wrong? They're going to give you immediate examples of what people do with the dox, right? And that's what's wrong, right? And the same thing applies to free speech. When is free speech wrong? Well, it's when you're plotting to kill someone or plotting to do some horrible thing, right? Well, that's incitement, right? We already have a thing for that. Mm-hmm. It's not free speech that's the problem. It's incitement, right? It's not free speech that's wrong. It's like repeated harassment, right? It's not doxing that's wrong. It's swatting them, you know? And this applies all the way through and to flag burning. When is flag burning wrong? When someone's wearing the flag. That's when it's wrong. You know? Or when it's someone's property. I get it. He stole someone's property. He should have to pay restitution, which is to replace the flag and to maybe say sorry, but I guess we can't even compel him to say sorry. Sorry, that was a bit of a tangent, but Toto has been silent, and I wanted to make sure that if you have any thoughts on the article, that you could chime in, because all of us, we're all gabbers. We're all a bunch of just gabbing people.
Yeah, I just feel like it's proving like him right in the respect that like any sort of criticism or critique towards the LGBT community is slammed down upon legally, and in this situation, he really only should have been like maybe given like at most a year due to like property destruction. Like it's not even that, because it's like it's a fucking flag. It's not anything like important. I feel like the biggest thing that's going to happen is that they're going to dig their own grave, and it's going to give more ammo to the alt-right, and it's going to give them reason to say, hey, I fucking hate faggots because they'll like fucking jail me if I try to critique them for their lifestyle or anything. And I don't believe that they should be jailed just because, I don't know, they don't think that I should be able to, have sex with men.
It's extremely unchristian. It's extremely unchristian for this church to stand by this conviction. Imagine you're this pastor. You're Eileen. You're Pastor Eileen, right? And this happens on your watch. What moral defensible stance would there be but to say, hey, government, can you please forgive this person who has transgressed against us? Can you please forgive him in order to model this idea of compassion and charity and forgiveness that we celebrate through Jesus Christ? Can you please help us celebrate our religion in this way by exonerating him and by not taking away 15 years of his life that is over a flag that we can just replace? Instead, no, she's going to double down on it because it's not about Christ. She's a fake Christian. She doesn't believe what she actually believes. She's a charlatan. She's taking money from that community and taking advantage of them and preying upon them and supporting fears. And I honestly, I feel confident saying all of this because if she were a real Christian, she would see it this way, and she would say, wow, we can't endorse this. We can't endorse this state kidnapping of a man who maybe did something immoral, but did he hurt anyone, you know?
Like, at most, it's like a slap on the wrist. Like, it's not anything bad. And, oh, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry. We're over talking. You haven't had a chance to express points. I just wanted to mention quick, and then I will toss it back to you, is there is an article, funny enough, it's a CNN article, of course, but it does reference Reese, guilty, knowingly, intentionally, willingly, hate coincidence. Okay, so I can't find who it was that was quoted, but an activist was quoted as saying, hate crimes against the LGBT community are a serious matter as they inflict distinct emotional harms on their victims and strike fear into the communities they target. Courtney Reyes, the executive director of One Iowa, a statewide LGBT organization, said, that said, true justice should always strive to be about rehabilitation, reconciliation, and healing communities. So she basically, and then she goes on, said that while her organization is appreciative of the seriousness of the crime, it does not see how the long sentence accomplishes any of those goals. So it is interesting to note that you do at least have one organization, an LGBT organization that is left-leaning, very much so, saying, yeah, this is excessive.
Yeah,
I just wanted to bring that up. That it's not a complete echo chamber there. There are some elements, even on the left, within the LGBT community itself that are saying, okay, hold on a moment.
Yeah, I do feel like if I told this to like my liberal friends, they'd be like, okay, yeah, that's going way too fucking far. Like, but you know, like I think that there should be like a fan fiction of him where he gets broken out of jail by like a based faggot, and they go out like, and commit crimes towards like fucking liberal faggots, and then they fall in love.
I was just gonna say, they fall in love because we got his mugshot up here, and since this is Gaytriarchy, because this is something Prince would have made us all do long ago. How handsome do you think he is? I think he's pretty handsome. I think he's a solid, like, I don't know, like at least a 7, right? At least 7 or 8.
He is a solid. Okay, he for me is a solid 7 beers handsome. Absolutely. No.
7 beers. Oh, come on. 7 beers. 7 I'll fucking tree.
No, I'm just kidding. No, he's cute. He's got a baby face. I'd say he's got a baby face. Mind you, this looks like a picture that, you know, he just decided not, you know, no bathing for a few days or anything like that.
Well, okay, but, this isn't his like Tinder picture, right? This is just a picture he just took randomly, and he did this well, right? Imagine if he was really trying to get that D. You know, he might have some really cute ones. So I just want to let him know that, you know, the gays aren't all hating you. Some of them are sexually harassing you on the internet.
But yeah, like, honestly,
Fuggy says 4. Wow, Fuggy, you got some standards. 4. Really? He's a 4? Really? That seems harsh. I don't know. I feel, but here's the problem: is like, they have this chart of how women rate men versus how men rate women. And if you look at how men rate women on a scale of 1 to 10, it's a perfectly even bell curve, which is creepy. How, like, perfectly accurate men are like, yeah, she's a 6. And it's like, yep, literally, she's statistically a 6. We have a bell curve. It's, like, perfect. Like, and then, like, with women, it's like all men are fucking 2s. Fuck him, right? And then my theory is that if you had the gay version of these, the lesbians would be rating other women the same way straight men do, where you have a perfectly even bell curve, right, of the women, like they'd get it. And then for the gays, it would be like this opposite thing of the women, where the gays are like, oh my god, every single man's a goddamn 8 or a 9 or a 10, right? Because, like, you know. Oh, okay, right. So Fuggy clarifies it's 4 because he has no beard. You know.
Oh,
to me,
okay.
I don't know. I like the clean-shaven look. The only facial
yeah, but
hair
he's
I
not
like
clean. He
is
needs to either have a beard or be clean. He needs to either have a beard or be clean.
he hasn't
The
chosen.
scruff thing just yeah.
Yeah.
I think he wants to do a little bit more with his hair. I mean, maybe he's slightly unkept, but like on a more serious note, I do hope he gets like the sentence like retracted,
Yeah.
and, like get the help, and he gets the help that he needs, because this is fucking bullshit. I actually feel bad for him. Like this is he didn't hurt anyone, you know? Like he's just fucking pissed, and now you proved him right.
Before we talk about serious things, I just want to note that I criticized Mitch, who was on this stream earlier. I criticized him because he has the worst facial hair of anyone I've ever seen. And if you go watch his most recent video, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. And I'm the only one who's mentioned this in the comment section, and I speak truth to power. His facial hair is awful. And he needs to know it, and he needs to fix it, because it's a travesty. Because his like skull shape and his face, it's very, very handsome. Like he has and then he just ruins it by fucking shaving his face in all the wrong places, and it's just like that's a hate crime. That's the real flag burning. If you ask me. Is if you got a good face, like you should not have facial hair unless you think your jawline is awful. No offense, Kevin. Actually, I think you probably look better without it, but you're going for kind of like the Deliverance look. I just imagine you just coming out of the woods saying, telling someone they got a pretty mouth, and that's how it all starts for you.
Make you squeal like a pig.
You got the Deliverance out of 10 look. I'm sorry. When I see a beard like that, I just like, this is Deliverance.
So I mean, just to pay homage again. So it's funny because, oh God, he keeps coming into my mind. This brings Prince into my mind, right? A while back, I had grown my beard out much larger than this, and I was like, because I haven't been clean shaven in years, and Prince and I had discussed, and it was one of those other things, you know, it just never happened. We discussed doing a charity for prostate cancer. It was going to be a men's charity where if we reached a certain amount of money by the end of a stream, I would shave my facial hair completely off for the first time in over a decade. So it was this actually just made me think of him with that.
I do want to address some happenings in the live chat really quick. So we have Miles Kinslow showed up again. I feel like I make him like embarrassed whenever I mention him because I'm such a fan. He said, "Burn every flag event." 1000% endorsed. Thank you, Miles Kinslow. Email me. I think I gave you my email address. Email me. We need to talk more. And then so the moon runes that are in the chat. It's a Chinese name, but I know this person. Not because I actually know Chinese well enough to read the characters, but because I know he's Korean. I just know who he is. And he said, that guy in the car, that's you, Peter. You're that guy in the car. Lives in Australia or New Zealand. And I think he got that impression because your camera might be mirrored, which he agrees. But he noted, he asked, what is Gaytriarchy? And he also asked, are the homosexuals the true MGTOW? The answer to the second question is yes, and the unfortunate reality of that is that straight men who go MGTOW, which MGTOW is for straight men, because like as a homosexual, all homosexuals are natural MGTOW, there's now this stigma on MGTOW that it's gay, and I think that as a gay person, like we have to create enough space for straight men to be comfortable entering it. Because it's not a gay thing. It's not a gay thing. It is true that to be gay is the natural alpha 1000% MGTOW level 100 in a sense, right? But MGTOW is a 100% rational defense against the dark arts thing that all straight men need to be aware of. If there is a straight man in your life that you are aware of, he must be made aware of MGTOW. Like, I get that this sounds like weird, like it's like Jehovah's Witness of the spinning robot pussy, and the get your love doll, and like don't mess with women, trust no hoe. But like, it whatever way you have to do it, this message must be spread. It's extremely important, and yeah. But he also noted, I like family and filial piety and my ancestors, so I don't know if I could become a pure MGTOW. Gotta give my parents grandchildren someday. It's my duty as a son in traditional culture. So basically, that comment is just confirming he's actually Asian. He's not just like a white person pretending to be Asian like I do. So he's actually Asian. He's trying to get the grandbabies. I don't know. I would tell him, you should do what's best for you. And, you know, even if you're living in an Asian culture, you still have to deal with the fact that men and women are different. And just because a culture doesn't have feminism does not mean it does not have gynocentrism. Gynocentrism is something that is practically unavoidable, but that's all the more reason to raise awareness about it. So that's I guess I'm half joking, but I'm very, very serious when I say all of that.
Like Peter went away when he put his glasses on.
If you think it's not smart to do, don't do it.
Make them babies. Make them babies. That's kind of like
Make those babies.
Accent.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people who are like pro ethnostate and they want all the white babies, and I'm sitting here like, yeah, I get it. But like, if it's 50-50 Asian babies and white babies and like a bunch of Hapa babies,
oh god,
I'm like totally okay with that too. Like, I'm really okay with that being the union.
Honestly, yeah, I mean, I hate comparing us to dogs, but I mean, if you keep the same like pugs and crap like that, they're great and cute, but they have health issues. The only healthy animal or whatever is a crossbreed. So crossbreeded humans only actually help the human nature because it weeds out crap and it's a better human. So
I found the Jew.
The larger gene pool.
Stop! Don't name them on my channel. My channel is pristine. Just because I had an entire live stream dedicated to lesbians being the Illuminati overlords, and just because I had an entire video and live stream dedicated to fighting anti-racism, does not mean you can bring up that. Breeder pride worldwide, unironically. You know, honestly, here's the thing.
What color we want?
Sorry, what?
I think you should have as many color whatever babies you want. Just have babies. Period. Just make babies. Just make sure you can take care of make sure that those babies don't grow up to be cowboys.
No, they can be cowboys as long as they're not red diaper babies. Just like in the video I premiered at the beginning of this whole program, intersectional feminism is communist particle board. Red diaper babies, you need to watch out. Babies are awesome. Babies are super cool. You see a baby in a red diaper, watch out. It means either they were genitally mutilated or their parents were goddamn commies. Those are the only two reasons a baby should be in a red diaper. And if you see that is a warning sign, and it needs to be opposed.
But on a serious note to that, though, and that kind of does tie in not so much in the joking fashion, but because Ben, that's a conversation that you often will get is, when you talk about culture and people automatically, you talk about American culture, American values and wanting to keep them strong, especially on the left, they automatically associate it with you preferring a race. Usually in their mind, they think the white race. And I'm like, no, I'm not focused on at all the color of the future of America. What I'm focused on are the values that those people will have. So that's what I care about. And I think that's what anyone should care about. And if you're not focused on the values of the people, and if their skin color is playing a role, then yeah, I'm going to question your motives on that. Because for me, it is very much about the values. So, but yeah, I mean, it's just very, very, very interesting overall that discussion, because to be honest, racial supremacy in general, not just the idea of some whites thinking they're superior, but racial supremacy in general is ultimately doomed to destroy itself, because even if one race removes all the obvious another race, the race they hate, eventually it becomes a purity test within themselves of who's the purest. So it will ultimately always destroy itself.
It won't
So
matter.
that's
The
what-
aliens us all anyway. The aliens are coming to kill us all. They're totally superior.
Oh, I thought they created us. I thought we're actually all descendants from aliens.
Yes, we all came from Mars.
Fucking Anunnaki.
We're just one giant planetary reality TV show for the aliens.
We're a petri
They're
dish.
just like, ha ha ha. That was one of the funniest South Park takes. But no, I just want to say this is an unpopular take, but I hope the Chinese win because I think they are superior. They are the best. Like, in the chat we have white diapers for white babies. 1000% I agree. He says it shows the stains easier, and I'm gonna take this a step further. I say, you know what? White diapers for yellow babies too. The other babies, I don't know how much I care. I don't know how much I care, but it's more hygienic, right? He did say though, sex dolls are weird as fuck. Also, there's a guy on the HBR, that's Honey Badger Radio Facebook, that is totally obsessed and committed to sex dolls, and it makes people uncomfortable. I say fuck those people because you gotta go waifu for laifu. I'm sorry. Like, yeah, China number one. China number one. Yeah, fuck Taiwan. Fuck Japan. China number one. Absolutely. Right? If you're gonna be communist, at least do it. Don't be like America, where you just like do communism and then you're like, oh no, we're not. We have two parties. Yeah, fuck.
Oh, you mean get to the point where you can't come up with your own original ideas? You need to take others and work on those.
No, yeah. So here's my thing. Like, love dolls, they need to be destigmatized. I actually have a plot to destigmatize love dolls, which is I want to write a screenplay, where all of it's a one-person show. So there's one live actor, but then all of the other characters are love dolls. And these have to be fully fuckable, like real love dolls who are featured in the play and then put into situations. And we have all these stage ninjas who come in and kind of sweep them, move them around or whatever as we need to for each thing. But it's a one-person play, and all of the other characters are literally love dolls. And this is a feminist play. This is a feminist progressive play because love dolls are violence against women because they're seen as only being there for the sexual pleasure of men. And I want to prove that they have humanity besides that. I want to prove that these hunks of plastic with fuckable assholes and fuckable vaginas and soft titties and fuckable mouths, that these are actually actresses with dignity. And I want to treat them with that human dignity by featuring them in an artistic presentation.
A sex doll revolution, huh?
Yeah.
Gay sex doll homos, trans sex doll trap something or another,
Oh, which by the way,
sex robots. That's what I'm holding out for.
One thing that doesn't get paid attention to are the male sex dolls.
It's all female. It's all femoid, right? It's all female sex dolls, female sex robots. Because like, if you're into men are just down to fuck, right? Like you don't have to get a doll. Like men are just down to fuck. So if you're like any tiny little bit of a drop of bisexual, like there's just a sea of men out there waiting for you, like that's just the unfortunate reality.
You hear that,
they can't keep their dicks out of each other, and like that's why when we talk about like sexual deprivation and incels and things, I genuinely hold there are no female incels. Someone's into it. Someone's willing to do it. They just
help! I got my dick stuck in a robot.
Unless they're like I don't know, fucking face, like they got defaced or something. But
no,
other than that,
doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Some horny drunk man, you turn the lights off, he doesn't care. He'll grab 2 rolls of fat and he'll fuck you anywhere. If you're a woman, you are not an incel. There is no such thing as a femcel. That is a rule. That is a law of physics. It's a law of sexual physics. There's no such thing as a femcel. I saw on Twitter someone said, "Oh, the term incel was coined by a woman who felt that way herself." And I'm like, yeah, of course a woman felt that way first. Facts don't care about your feelings. It's literally the only thing Ben Shapiro ever got right? So it's like a perfect poetry that it would be like a femcel, a self-identified femcel who identifies this thing, yet in reality it's only men who experience that. And sorry, I got passionate. Because like I feel bad. I feel bad for straight men who just like they want to have a normal, good, healthy sexual relationship with a woman, and just the market is shit because of the social standard, and that's awful. That's awful. Nobody should be subjected to that, and we should have a community that celebrates love dolls because it's going to bring all of this joy to all these people. Yet you have governments that are cracking down on it. They're saying, oh, if you like sex dolls, you're a necrophiliac, you're a pedophile, you're whatever. And it's stupid. It cheapens all of these other issues surrounding human sexuality to just use those as smears, to shut down something you don't like because you just want to continue to have men be motivated by this drive to fuck real human pussy. And it's like, sorry, but the spinning robot pussy is upon us, and women are going to have to deal with that automation. They're just
They're
going to have to man up. They're going to have to learn how to bake cookies, how to teach their own kids, and how to stop being assholes for like 5 goddamn seconds if they're going to compete with the robot versions.
And on the note of the sex robots, it is after 11:30 where I am. My husband is in bed, and I do have to get to bed because I actually have to finish up Christmas shopping tomorrow.
Oh God, I have to Christmas shop too. I have to do it for crafts because I teach babies English, and I have to get crafts for things. And if I don't, then my job's going to be hard. But I'm glad that you're here as late as you are.
Oh yeah, no, it's been a blast. I'm glad to have been able to be part of this, despite obviously the sadness of this, But I still am glad that I could, that I had the opportunity to be here and, remember Prince and honor everything that he's done. But yeah, I do have to get going. I want to wish everyone, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year's, all the good shit. And I'll catch y'all later. We'll have to do a live stream again. Like I said, I know we have this entitled the last Gaytriarchy, but, we still can't let this end. We still have to have, the great conversations and everything. Prince
Mitch
definitely
had
would
said,
want that.
he put a little bit of pushback against this idea that this is the final Gaytriarchy. I'm committed to this. I think this is the final Gaytriarchy, but that doesn't mean that we don't continue the mission in some other way. But I don't feel it's appropriate to call it Gaytriarchy without him. I feel it's appropriate this one time because he died and is part of that, and we're kind of raising awareness for what was done before. But absolutely, I guess whatever we title it, a rose by any other name or whatever the fuck, right?
Absolutely. Well, I'm gonna head out, everyone. It's been great, talking to everyone. Peter, it was nice talking to you again. We haven't, shot the shit in a long time. It's good hearing from you, and I enjoyed interacting with everyone who's been on the stream. And I look forward to more of this in the future.
Hell yeah! So, Merry Christmas, dude. Merry Christmas to your husband as well, and I hope you guys have a great time and a good night.
All right. Peace out.
All right. Well, I switched it over to the final article. Did we have any God, I know we got off into a whole tangent about sex dolls, which anytime something happens on my stream, it just like ends up becoming about sex dolls somehow. Which is funny because gays are the last people who need sex dolls, which is one of the points I made. But eventually, it's gonna be like trap dolls, right? Like you stick a dildo on like a female sex doll or a sex robot. I feel like that's gonna happen first, and eventually it's gonna be like robot male sex dolls with like artificial erections and everything. But I think that's a much longer way in the future than conventional sex dolls.
Definitely. But yeah, I think gay men should just like rule the world, honestly. Like all of our ideas are the best.
Yeah,
just
sorry,
like rule
Peter.
over
So now you're in the company of me and someone who basically thinks exactly like me, and we're a little bit unhinged. So I'm just gonna throw that out there. So you can maybe be a somewhat dissident voice, but then again, I'm not sure how much on board you are with all of that. Like, but I had another article here, which is man says he refused to keep dying dad on life support, because sorry, the way I have it clipped is like stupid, because he abused me for being gay, which. Just based on the headline, yeah, this is obviously not something that I'd want to endorse, especially given the nature of what we're talking about now, which is a person dying. This seriousness of life and death and its finality and like what that means. Even though naturally I'm a little bit drawn to. I guess I have a little bit of a fascination with these kind of draconian punishments and this idea that like you can improve society by putting that on the table. And it's something that maybe I'm thinking about and moving back away from, because now I've had a little bit of context about like, here's what happens when someone dies, right? So I'm seeing a couple of sides to it, and I'm not exactly sure how to express what I think about it.
Right, like I don't know, like as of it, like I could say that I used to be a bit abused by my parents for being gay myself, and I don't think I'd ever feel like that. I would never be able to do what this guy did, honestly, because even if like objectively, like my parents would be like, I don't know, let's just say hypothetically that they're pieces of shit to me, it would take a lot for me to do this, because like there's still that like emotional bond between like a parent and a child, like even if like the parent has abused their kid, it's just kind of hard to wrap my head around like this guy and what he did. Like I was kicked out when I was 15 for being gay myself by my own mother, and I don't want her to fucking get killed. Like I want to be able to end her life, like I just don't
see. And what's interesting is that based on that, your experience was a lot more pointed than anything I experienced. Like for me, I had like my mom, she's kind of German ethnically, right? And I was raised by a widow. My dad died when I was very, very young. I was like 4 years old, and I was raised by a widow. She eventually remarried like several years later, and we had a mixed family. But they could tell I was gay very early on. And this was something I realized later, is they could tell I was gay, yet were in denial of it. And then rather than accepting it and then finding ways to be supportive, they kind of just acted out in denial the entire time and kind of like stuffed their fingers in their ears. And like they were fairly permissive, right? Like they weren't, I wouldn't say they were overtly like abusive, but I would say negligent in some ways. And that's kind of where my experience comes from, which I think probably a lot of people can relate to, but it's not the typical narrative, not the typical experience people have. And I get that it's not something like parents. The reason they don't want their kid to be gay, I don't think it's out of like a homophobic or like a hateful or like a prideful sort of a thing. I think a lot of it really is based on like they just don't want their child to suffer, and I think they kind of indulge in the denial of it, right? So I don't think it's necessarily like a malicious thing. Yet it's funny that despite that coming out of it, like I still kind of feel like if you're overtly abused because of being gay and then you're in this situation where they're on life support and then you decide, you know what, how about fuck you? Like, I understand, like, the correct answer is to shun this because we don't want to go in this direction. We want to be more forgiving. We want to be more compassionate. But at the same time, like, I don't want to diminish that a person might feel that way, if that makes any sense. The chat, we have Thuggy and Korea Man saying, like, yeah, that's a scary thing to think, and it's ultimately not going to benefit them. And I generally agree, like, to be fair on that. But at the same time, I guess, depending on the severity of the abuse, like, I feel like I can't judge.
Yeah, like, at the same time, like, it depends on. I don't think that they've gotten abused much more or than I was, honestly. It sounds pretty similar to what my situation was like. At least from looking at the article at first glance. I don't know what, like, the full, like, story.
Yeah, I haven't read it. Like, to be full disclosure,
mm-hmm.
I read the headline and I thought, ooh, we have to talk about this. But, Peter, did you have any thoughts kind of up front based on what we've talked about?
No, I mean, you do have the issue sometimes with family. My parents have been pretty good, considering, and they support me. Like my dad, like mom supports me. I mean, you get your parents worried about you maybe having another kid, or something like that. But I've been with my other half for 23 years, and they would like me to have a child, have a kid, but it's like, well, it may be one day, but I mean, it really depends on the parents, and they were staunch Republicans helped Ronald Reagan get elected, so that's it really just depends on the parents, and it's the truth. My parents are Republican, and they're more accepting of the fact that I'm gay than it seems some of these liberal parents are, considering they want to make their child another sex because they can't deal with the fact that their kid might be a little gay. It's so weird. And it really depends on the parent. It really depends, I guess, on the parents. At the end of the day, I don't think leftist parents are very prepared to have children, as far as I'm concerned.
I think we're both in agreement on that.
Honestly, I think more right-leaning parents are a little bit more keen on how to raise their children proper. And a lot of Republican people have gay children. And somebody say, "Oh, it's a punishment." No, I think it's probably teaches them a lesson, to live. And I think it still becomes a respect issue that those. But then again, before I have to go, but I have had so many people come to me or reach out to me and say, my child is gay, and they won't have anything to do with me because they think I don't love them. They think I'm against them because the liberals and the left have taught them that we don't care, and I can't get them, and they've completely shut me out of their lives. How can I reach them? And I'm like, I really don't know that answer. That's something that you have to work. You just have to keep showing them that love and keep contacting them and tell them and try to unbrainwash them. That's the end of the day. So
that's a good thing right there. Yeah. Also, there's a lot more. I'd say, I don't want to cut you off, but I'd say that there's a lot more to it. Like, you'd have to see like what exactly they're lacking emotionally that they're getting from their parent. Like they may need a bit more attention. Who knows? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's it's a really powerful dimension, right, to think about. And like one thing that we talked a little bit about like the influence of LGBTQ activism on entertainment, right, with Hallmark, and also a little bit with this like Star Wars movie. And I think that people look to this entertainment in order to get a little bit of a feeling out of what moral guidance is. And I think we look at media, we call it entertainment, right? Like when I was labeling the categories for each of these streams and for the premiere of Prince's video, you know, part of it is like, do we put it in the entertainment category? Because people who seek out information and seek out this kind of content, it's entertaining. Like that's how I view it. Like I view it as like, this is my entertainment. This is what I download to walk around and to listen to all the time. Or is it education? Because it is also educational, right? And like there's kind of this idea that like all entertainment, it's very frivolous and that it's not informing us. Yet at the same time, it's a very serious thing that people are looking towards. And I really think that these parents who are trying to struggle with this idea of like, oh, I know I had these values and this idea for what my progeny should be, and this investment of my life in what I want my family to be, and then to have this kind of wrench thrown in, because it really is a wrench. You know, to say it's not disruptive of any way is extremely disingenuous. To say that they should just suck it up and to not acknowledge it and that it's not important somehow, and then also to deprive them of any source of entertainment that might kind of say anything that's in such a strict ideological cage, it is extremely cruel, I think. I don't know, did that make sense to you guys? I mean,
that makes sense. Yeah, it is definitely cruel. There's definitely better ways to go about it than just saying, oh, suck it up, you know. Like, you also have to take into account that they have feelings as well, and that they didn't expect this. You know.
Well, yeah, and this is why,
don't
like,
really want to stab them in the heart.
Sorry, what? I didn't mean to cut you off. I didn't know.
Oh, I'm sorry. You just don't really want to stab them in the heart, you know.
Yeah, and like, and this is one area where I'm quite sympathetic to the Christians, because I've met a lot of Christians who, you know, they have legitimately held beliefs, and they say like, I'm just kind of acting and working based on what I think like God has told me, and I can't betray that, and I'm trying to be the best person within those confines. And I think a lot of them are very genuine in that regard, and that if you talk to them, you'll find they're very compassionate people who are very helpful and who are kind of advancing things in a really good way. And then, you know, on the other hand, you have people who kind of are using that narrative in a way that's much more mean-spirited, that is starkly contrasted with what the values of that religion really extol. And this is why, like, I'm of two minds, because I'm very sympathetic to the fact that Christians take a lot of abuse, and often they take that abuse with a lot of grace and dignity, and move forward with it in a way that other groups of people just like can't do. And I don't know how to express like how cool it is that so many of them are willing to do that. On the other hand, like, I'm on Twitter calling Christians a bunch of backstabbing Judases because I think that they like largely enabled communism. And I think like those are two different classes of people, right? And it's like, it puts me in a weird spot. Because I understand that a lot of people will look at kind of what I say and who I am, and then they'll say, oh, you're just another one of these just like awful, shitty atheists who says really, really mean things. And I don't know, I guess I have to own it. I have to own what I've said. But at the same time, it's different classes of people saying different things and expressing it different ways. And I feel like I have a good enough idea of like what Christian morals should be, that I can kind of see which ones are really kind of ride or die Christians versus which ones are just kind of using it when it's emotionally convenient. But right. Maybe I'm not qualified to say that. And, you know, if anybody...
I don't know. I'd say you're qualified.
Evangelical, anyone who's, like, very, very, like, able to read the scriptures and, like, can correct me and, like, explain that to me, I'm more than happy to hear that out. Like lately, I've really warmed up to the Mormons. We had Thomas Zog on a few weeks ago, and he was really cool and really respectful. You know. I mean, he's really cool.
Yeah,
He's really respectful, except for when he's like vandalizing veterans memorials. But like, I mean, besides that, like, whatever. I don't know. He's Jesus. Whatever.
Yeah. Shit. Fuck. I forgot. I was gonna say something. Never mind then. But yeah. Oh yeah, actually no. I don't remember what I was gonna say. Like, you don't have to. I mean, I think that you have a decent knowledge about what, Christian morals should be, because a lot of us were raised as Christians, like, and like a lot.
And that was the thing, is that I was in my household, in my mixed household, with a Catholic stepfather and his Catholic stepchildren, who were my stepbrother, stepsister, and then my mother, who was kind of like Christian but not extremely serious about it. Mostly on the radio, she listens to a lot of Rush Limbaugh, which is great, cool for her. And then like I had I had my biological sisters. My older sister in particular at one point was much more strictly evangelical. She really took that religion seriously for a time and explained to me some things, and then I felt those were really influential on me. And then as I grew up, I found that generally it was quite correct. And I became like the most pious, like most religiously motivated person in the family at the time. Right. And then that's a weird scenario to be as like the gay person. But to some degree it makes sense. To some degree it's like motivated, I think, by not wanting to acknowledge that truth. So it was it's a weird scenario, the way that religion interplays with it. And when we think back to that story of like the flag burning, I kind of get how like that church being pro-gay, that it's really, really emotionally helpful to a lot of people, and that they're when I say emotionally, I get that's like really dismissive and really condescending. I guess I don't mean that, but I kind of mean that, because the Bible is clearly, very clear on what the purpose of human sexuality is and what you're supposed to do with it. And this idea that like you have this sexuality that doesn't serve that purpose, and then you just use it however you want anyway, that does come into conflict with Christianity. And I think we need to be able to talk about that conflict in a really open and honest way, regardless of if you're atheist or if you're Christian.
Right.
Yeah. So hashtag real name. He's the guy who made the the archive that I mentioned earlier, POQ archive. He said he has to get going. So thank you so much for hopping in here, and I'm really, really thankful that you had done the archiving earlier. I had looked into it a little bit, and the website I found just seemed like it was like a scam or something, and I didn't know if like that was the kind of service you have to pay money for. And I was going to look into it later, and then, well, I guess I ended up not having to, because somebody else had already taken care of it. So I'm thankful for that, because, I'm glad that you were able to do that and make sure that was done, because I don't have to worry about it, Thuggy said, I was raised in Mormonism, so my experience of being gay was it was not a thing. Wow, Thuggy, that's really interesting, because I've been talking to so many Mormons here since I came to Hong Kong. Because since I'm white, sometimes they'll like approach me and be like, hey, do you want to hear about Jesus? And I'll be like, well, I'm atheist, so I guess I'm like literally the exact person you want to talk to. I've had a couple of instances. Well, honestly, one of the times was because the Mormon boy, he was really cute, and I was kind of checking him out. And I think he sensed that I was kind of checking him out, and then he took advantage of that. He took advantage of me. He took advantage of me objectifying him.
Well, that's nice. That's a nice way to go about it, honestly. Sort of.
Yeah. Well, and the funny thing is, we were kind of in like a crowded like bus, and he was like, "Hey, you want to talk about Jesus while we're on the bus here?" Like, there's 2.5 Chinese men in between us, and we're just gonna like talk around each other, and like, it was a little bit bizarre. But he never got back to me. But anyway.
Aw.
No, but Thuggy, no, yeah. Well, I'm not hoping for that. Like, if somebody has their religion, I'm not gonna tear them away over something as trite as whatever. But Thuggy mentioning he's Mormon, that makes me think like it'd be cool to have a chat with you and to maybe bring Thomas Zog back on and to talk about that, because Mormonism is actually quite fascinating. It gets dismissed a lot because of those goddamn South Park cunts, and like I'd love to actually talk about some of those issues, because Mormonism, it solved a lot of really interesting issues very early on and does not get the credit it's deserved. So like if I was going to convert back to Christianity, I feel like Mormonism is like probably where that's going to happen. I don't think that's likely, but I just, that's where my emotions are at, in the very least.
Yeah, that's fair.
Anyway, I'm gonna read some of this article. We'll see where it goes, and then we'll have some final thoughts on this article, and then we can kind of close out the stream from here with some final thoughts regarding Prince of Queens, and yeah, because I think that it really shouldn't go longer than 3 hours. We're we've been going for quite a long while. And honestly, I woke up like hours before my little premiere thing, so I'm getting a little bit drowsy. So forgive me if I seem a little bit loopy.
A little bit loopy myself because I got my ears blasted by in the theaters.
Yeah,
like
right.
Star Wars.
So the title of this article is "Man says he refused to keep dying dad on life support because he abused me for being gay." Every time we see people dogging Dwayne Wade for how he loves and supports his gay son, we think of situations like this. At some point, if you live long enough and you are unable to take care of yourself, you become your children's responsibility. We're not saying we agree with this person, we're just saying treat others how you want to be treated, including your children. In a Facebook post, one man writes he took his father off life support after suffering years of homophobic abuse from his father, despite his family's objections. In the post, he writes, "My entire family is mad I didn't keep my dad on life support, but I don't feel bad at all about it. From the time I was 8 to the time when his health began to fail, he abused me physically and emotionally for being gay. He kicked me out at 15 after I kept running away to escape his daily abuse. He had the opportunity to support me in life and didn't. And when I was given the chance to keep him alive, I didn't. I don't care who in the family don't like this. You all let him treat me horribly and turn the other way."
Wow.
Then this says,
that was pretty
"Woo chalet." I don't know what that means. I don't know what "woo chalet" means. So he posts a picture of it, and oh shit, that's all. That's all they give us in this article. Damn.
Wow.
All right, I guess that leaves it up to us and to those in the chat still here. I mean, I don't know. Because here's the thing. If you're living in a culture where you know this is a possibility, that's a hell of a deterrent, right? And I do think that when you raise children, there is kind of that expectation that they're an investment in your future, that if they love you, they'll take care of you. And clearly, this guy did not love his father. And if you think about this relationship, this father-son relationship, this father failed to foster that relationship in his own son. This was a relationship where he was there from the beginning, where he could have been planting the seeds to foster that kind of relationship, right? And he failed. And now he's going to reap the consequences of that failure. Now, the fact that you have other family members objecting to it, you'd think like, oh, maybe like the son is on the hook for paying for this, right? Or something like that, which would make it, a little bit more of an issue where it's like, well, shit, if I'm going to pay for it, like, why should I pay for you if you couldn't support me before, which maybe that's a little bit trite to make it about money. But this idea that, like, you have other family members who are like, hey, just sign over the responsibility to us. He's valuable to us. Let us support him continuing to live on life support, right? Like that dynamic makes it feel like it's more of a vindictive kind of a revenge thing, which is a little bit grotesque. So, I don't know. I'm kind of at the same point I was at the beginning of this, where I have two minds about it.
Yeah, it's definitely a dark situation. Like,
yeah,
neither's visually innocent, I'd say. But, yeah, sorry, go on.
Peter, you've been quiet for a while. I don't know if anything we've talked about is anything that inspires you to chime in or not. I just want to make sure. Maybe he's just listening for the moment here. Yeah, it's like, what do you say about this? Because, like, here's the thing. When you become a parent, you are, in a way, violating a non-aggression principle, right? Like it's not aggression per se. It's kind of in this like bizarre gray area that generally doesn't exist, which is that if you, by your actions, create a person who now has to exist, you need to continue to act in such a way that that person consents to their own existence and is thankful for the fact that you made them exist. And if you produce a person who says, I don't want to exist right now. I never wanted this. I don't want to be a person. I don't want this. I don't like life. I don't enjoy this. I don't want to exist. I never wanted to exist. Even if that person like chooses to kill themselves, they still had to go through that traumatic process of living and then wanting to die and then carrying through that act. And because you caused all of those circumstances without their consent, I see the argument that you've committed an aggression against them. This is probably the most powerful argument against the non-aggression principle and against libertarian ethics, which is something that I champion and something that I really cherish. So the fact that this kind of stands in opposition to that, I take very seriously. And it's a question that I'm not sure if I have a good answer to, but the answer to it that Stefan Molyneux gave, which I think is a good answer, it's at least a very practical answer, is that when you're a parent, your obligation, all of your parental duty comes from the fact that you did this to someone. You need to make their existence happy and joyous and awesome enough that they're not resentful that you caused them to exist, but extremely thankful for it. And I think this is empirically demonstrable that a parent can do this. Parents have this power. I'm not sympathetic to this idea that people are just like born all fucked up and depressed and gay, and that because they're born that way, they're just never going to be happy no matter how good of a parent you are. I don't believe that. I believe that when a person is this miserable, that they want to kill themselves, that they want to not be alive, that they have this level of resentment that they'd put out their own father, I believe that that reflects a failure of a parental duty. And honestly, I think we need to stigmatize bad parenting more. That might be a very kind of offensive thing to say, but I do believe that, like, we have a stigma against judging parents, that it's extremely harmful. So I think that sets out a very practical way to approach this issue that solves a lot of this, but the underlying philosophical implications are something that, you know, I'm not entirely sure how we deal with that. So I'm a little bit conflicted.
I definitely think that, you know, there's a lot of shit that happened in this guy's life caused him to feel like that, and I'm not going to, I think I'm sort of in agreement with you in the respect that although I don't condone what he did, I can understand why he did what he did, because it sounds like he went through a lot of abuse, and he just didn't he was just resented his parent for causing him really to exist, like you've pointed out. And I think, yeah, maybe he should have just given it to family and just like stormed off to cool off or something. Like that would have been the right thing to do. But you can understand why he did it. Like personally, if I were in a situation, because I have had a similar story, I probably would just give it to my other family members so I can just like cool off, because I don't think it would be worth it for me to cause that much like like anger towards me. Like I don't think it would be worth it. But I can understand why he did it. I guess that's all I really have to say. Yeah, I can't call him a monster, but I don't really say what he did was right either. So
yeah, and here's the thing: is that normally when like people on YouTube cover articles, you got a really strong stance, right? You're taking a hard line perspective on a thing, but like this is one where I really feel it's appropriate to have some of that ambivalence. It is very ugly that this guy has this like animosity towards his own father, that he's willing to just like have his life die in this way when it seems that he wouldn't even have to pay for or in any way be accountable for his father's continued existence. But at the same time, I think that parents need to take that responsibility seriously. That that their children's welfare is something that they're accountable for. So, I wanted to note here, I did get some messages from Chad. He said that it looks like he wasn't available at this time. And then he said maybe we'll plan another stream dedicated to his memory. And, I'm all for that. I'm all for having a whole another stream for anyone who wants to show up like at another time. Because, like I said during the previous one, I don't see myself as like monopolizing this thing, and I hope nobody has a delusion of that. I'm just somebody who, I had some contact with Prince of Queens, and we had collaborated together to create this podcast. But I do think it's appropriate to say this is the final Gaytriarchy. We covered 4 different topics relevant to anti-SJWism and to gay issues, and we did that from a perspective that's I think very self-evidently anti-feminist, anti-SJW, a perspective that affirms that males are worthy of compassion and concern, and that men should assert their own right to exist. And there's a really sad irony in that, that's really the heart of all of this, is that men have a right to exist, and Prince is no longer with us. In this living sense, he's no longer existing, and that was what he had been fighting for. So we've received and read a lot of really kind, really beautiful messages about the impact that he's had on other people. And I really feel honored to have been able to read these messages from people, because I didn't imagine myself doing this kind of thing like a few days earlier, and when I learned the news, what I did was I went outside for a walk. I got myself a cheeseburger and mozzarella sticks and lots of alcohol, and I just did that. And it's not a healthy response. It was something, I don't know why. I don't know. It's a strange thing. I really felt this like looming sense of just fucking death, and it sucks because for about 2 years of just being in contact with him and talking to him over the various mediums, it had never occurred to me, like, what happens if he dies? Like, what does that mean? What happens from here? You know, and I feel like it's not something I should have had to think about, and here we are.
It definitely like brings in to the light that, you know, humans are definitely mortal, and that, you know, our time on this earth is limited.
Actually, I'm
No?
I'm glad you mentioned that. I was one of the podcasts I listen to very often is Turd Flinging Monkeys, which he tells everyone, if you listen to him and are influenced by him, don't fucking mention him. Sorry, no, like, I want to take the shit with you. Like, I endorse you and support you 1000%. Maybe not 1000%. Maybe we have our points of departure. I do have a video kind of criticizing a take he has, but that's not the point. The point is, he had said something really beautiful about humanity and about life, just about a week ago, and when he said that, it really reminded me of this situation. So I want to echo that. He was talking about how, as humans, what makes us valuable is the fact that we're finite. You know, we're not immortal. We die eventually, and it's this finite time that gives us a sense of importance, a sense of values, a sense of prioritizing things. And goddamn, like, for someone to die as young as he did in a way he did is really unexpected. It's a really pointed fucking reminder that, yeah, you can just die at any time. You talked about flowers, and of course, you know, I went on a date with a florist. He took me to the flower shop. I saw all of the hanging flowers. It was so beautiful, so romantic, right? But and just the fact that he mentioned flowers made me think of that, and like him himself, my florist friend, he was mentioning, like, you know, I'm passionate about the beauty of flowers and about sharing that with people, but you know, people don't necessarily value that right now. So I'm like, I'm harvesting these flowers. I'm carrying all these flowers to my workshop, and I'm treating them and drying them and categorizing them, and sometimes pricing them and putting them into different arrangements for people per their specifications in a culture that is increasingly not valuing that beauty and that temporary nature of what that is. And it hits me like straight to my fucking heart that this is, you know, humans, we're flowers, you know, we're flowers. We're sown, we grow, we bloom, and then we're picked and we fucking die. And sometimes we fucking die before we're treated with a bunch of chemicals that let us fucking live longer than we were supposed to. I'm glad we have our archive. Our archive is that treatment. We at least have that, you know.
Yeah.
Sorry, my tone was dismissive, but like, I think people understand what I mean. So I am, you know, like me and Prince, we had a relationship over YouTube, talking about issues, setting up our streams and everything. And I don't want to act like I'm like his number one, like, best fucking friend, but like I might have been like one of his major internet friends. And to be an internet friend, it's this totally separate category in this totally separate world that like people normally don't interact with. You know, it's like a weird thing. And I don't know, it's new enough that I don't know how to feel about it or how to act about it. And I guess it is what it is, and I guess we just have to let these streams just be what they are. I hope that anybody watching, don't just look to this stream. Don't even just look to like anything I've put on my channel kind of in tribute to Prince of Queens. Like, really, you know, if you are someone who is influenced by him, I really encourage you to go to his channel. Go to his channel on any platform, every platform, and, you know, find those things that you found to be influential, but also seek out some of those things that maybe you haven't heard before, and celebrate those things, and celebrate the fact that we're going to immortalize those things, and take the lessons you can from them and move forward with those messages. Because he died way too goddamn motherfucking young. He died way too fucking young. He had half a dozen goddamn fucking projects sitting there that are never going to happen, and they're never going to happen, right? We can do what we can to try to replicate that contribution, but those things aren't going to happen the way they would have, but for his contribution. So, you know, consider your own, I guess, your own fucking mortality. You're a flower. You're gonna fucking die. You're gonna die in the fucking winter, just like all the other fucking people who die in winter, which is like a thing statistically. Sorry, I'm rambling a little bit. I got a little bit emotional.
Yeah, it's okay though. Like, I think, you know, I like that. You know, and like the only thing that I would actually mention myself is that like I found Prince when I was really starting to get first delve into clown world, or like starting to take my first red pills, and like I think he did leave an impact on me, how I view things now, in the respect that like I do definitely look at things more critically now. I don't take things for granted, and like I am appreciative that I found him. I'm appreciative of him because he gave me the tools to become the person that I am now. And I think that yeah, if I could say like one last thing to him, I would say thank you. You know, like, and I think one of the last things that I actually said to him in a what was it? I think it was in Discord chat. Yeah, he kind of like, you know, made me who I am in the respect that of how I view these politics. As you know, I could have become like a fucking libtard. Just saying that right now, I could have become a fucking libtard feminist, like this mongoloid. But you know,
I'm so glad
I found him, and he gave me the red pills that I needed.
I'm so glad you didn't go that route, because like, to me it's like it's just really fucking cool to talk to someone who, like, me and you, like our views are like so like synonymous in so many ways, and that's really weird, you know. It conventionally speaking, it's weird. It's weird for like there to be like gay libertarian sympathetic people who have these views on men's rights, and you know, some of it is very black pilled, some of it is very, you know, but that's all part of honesty. It's part of being honest about the scale of the problem. And one of the saddest things that had occurred to me with Prince of Queen's death is that we talk about men's rights and men's issues and getting society to see men and boys as worthy of basic empathy and basic fucking compassion. And, you know, Karen Strawn had once said, and I think she's completely right, and that's why I repeat this often. She said, you know, men's rights activists and the men's rights movement, it's going to fade away and die long before the need for it does. Because right now, she didn't say this part, but the reason is that right now, men are living off of the fucking fumes of the fake pretense of giving a shit about them. And in a society where people at least do a tiny little bit of that, men will be so goddamn happy. And things for men will improve so much more if we just achieve 10% of what the men's rights movement wants. If we get just a tiny goddamn little fraction of what men's rights needs, then it will make the entire difference in the world to men. Men are asking so fucking little. And it pisses me off. It pisses me off so much because I just love to see men take feminism and fucking gender flip it and just be the absolute motherfucking cunts that other people have been regarding women's issues. Like, I'd love to see that reversal, to say, you know what? Here's all the things we've done for women for all of these years. Here's an entire century of only caring about women in the context of a culture that already only cared about women. And what if we reversed that and made it all about men for a century, right? Like, I'd love to see that. And, like, part of me is just, I don't know, maybe it's a darkness, it's a vindictive nature that I want to see that reversal, that revenge, right? But what Karen noted is, she's like, you know what? Men are never going to be equal to women. We're never going to be treated the same way because of gynocentrism. It's so ingrained in our nature. Equality is a pipe dream, but if we get at least halfway there, if we get at least a quarter of the way there, the improvements are unprecedented, right? And that is something to celebrate. We have these tiny victories in the men's rights movement. We celebrate them as they occur, and they're worthy of celebration. The shit that NCFM is doing, that Mark Angelucci is doing, right?
Right.
You know, so yeah, I mean,
yeah, like fucking like when Sauron gets fucking defeated in Lord of the Rings, and like circumcision gets banned, or like fucking like women have to be like drafted into like second line units. It'll feel like that, basically. It'll feel like an awesome euphoric rush, because you know it is a victory, because yeah, we had to go through a lot of fucking bullshit to get to that, you know?
Yeah, but we're never gonna have that moment. It's gonna be like Sauron like gets a toothache for a couple of weeks.
Maybe.
Or something.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Who knows? I
Wow.
guess who knows?
Fucking
The other thing I
buzzkill.
wanted to mention, though, is that Prince of Queens and H.A. Goodman, those are the two people I'm aware of who predicted that the nominee for the Democrats will be Hillary Clinton. Now, Prince backed off of his prediction a little bit, but when he made his prediction, I told him, this is the same thing H.A. Goodman is saying, and you're both 1,000% correct. So when we're coming into 2020 in the fall, and it's Hillary Clinton versus Donald Trump, the fucking rematch, don't you fucking forget Prince of Queens called that shit. So when you're looking at his old videos and listening to his political commentary and his view on things, keep that in mind, that he predicted that. And I endorse that prediction. I think they're both 1,000% correct. That is what's going to happen. So
Like, I guess
to
my
end this on an
takeaway
exciting note instead of just like me fucking crying like a homo and like being a pussy.
I guess my only takeaway is that, you know, like, yeah, I think I mostly agree with you. I don't think that gynocentrism will ever completely go away.
No, I think it will. It will when we embrace transhumanism.
That's why I was about to say.
Yes,
I do
in
think
general
that
it
humans
won't.
will eventually defeat it with transhumanism. That's what I usually say.
You know, I don't care if it takes 200 goddamn motherfucking years. It'll end eventually. It's going to take a while. But that's the tragic thing is, you know, Prince died too early. But just because he died too early, that's not the reason he's going to die before seeing these issues stop being a thing. Honestly, this is black-pilled as hell, but all of us, we're all going to die before we see the Manosphere win. That's how I feel right now.
I do think we'll see the seeds. I do think we'll live to see the seeds.
Even you, I know you're younger. You're the baby teen trap boy, super like epitome of youth. You know, you're even you will be a grandfather of anal womb,
ass womb children,
uterus babies. Yeah. You're gonna be talking to your anal womb fucking grandbabies about how your anal womb had greater values that were more wholesome than your fucking children's anal womb fucking babies. You'll be telling them those tales as we talk about the scourge of gynocentrism as it continues.
Indeed.
Anyway,
but,
sorry.
you know,
So Peter, you've been quiet for a while. I want to make sure that if you had any thoughts.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. I think he needs to talk a little bit.
This
Peter?
is our culture. I'm sorry. Our culture is like weird, and like this is what we talk about. He's just like the fuck. He's just sitting here like, man, like how fucking politically awkward is this gonna be when they find it later and I'm trying to run for office. Oh, maybe he's literally thinking that. Well,
maybe. We'll see.
Well, the last comments we had in chat had to do with the article. Thuggy had mentioned it's a completely screwed up situation to see a child and parental relationship like that, and I agree 1000%. Yeah, and the aim is to prevent that, right? The aim is to prevent that, and I think that there are aims to prevent that, regardless of which side of that issue you fall on, right? If you support him ending that relationship in that way, you think there are solutions to it, and if you support the parent continue to exist, there are solutions to ending that.
Yeah, it's just a dark situation that,
Yeah.
doesn't really have nice.
So, one thing I want to mention, this is the last thing I'll mention before we go ahead and end this stream and move on, is Prince of Queens set up a Discord server. It's a Discord server that only me and Prince are members of at the moment. He gave me admin permissions, I believe, but we had never really done anything with this server. So it's like a naked, bare bones server. And what I'm thinking is, if somebody is interested in maybe setting up a server and doing any work related to maintaining such a server, such as, setting up categories, setting up all the bots and everything, dealing with appointing admins to make sure that it's whatever the fuck kind of space it needs to be, it's a responsibility that I'm not comfortable doing on his behalf. But if you're somebody who, like, the ins and outs of Discord, it's like second nature to you, send me a message so we can talk about how to go about doing that. We can potentially use that as a server to be kind of a Discord based hub for people who are fans of Prince of Queens and his content. Now, should that not be realistic for whatever reason, I have my own Discord channel, but obviously I'm not the same as him, and I understand that, a lot of people who are fans of Prince of Queens, you're not necessarily going to be fans of who I am and what I have to say, and you may not be comfortable in a space that's dedicated to my channel and what I do. Even though we have similar aims, our methods are different, our personalities are different, our perspectives are different, and I would never, pretend to replace what it is he contributed. But back to the main point. The main point was, if you're someone who knows the ins and outs of Discord, and you're a fan of Prince of Queens, and you'd like to see that legacy and that tribute continued in the form of a Discord server, reach out to me, message me, and we'll see what we can do.
I got about 10 Discord servers.
Yeah. Also, hi. Well, I think you're allowed to be in like fucking 50 of them. So
yeah, I technically run about 10 of them. I don't go in Discord as much anymore, but I do have about 10, and some of them are set up pretty nicely with Twitter feeds going in there and various stuff. Well, there's scripts and stuff you can get. Then that is a really good way to set up webhooks and stuff, news and things into the server, and set up your voice and everything. It's a real good way to go in there. A lot of people now go to Telegram as well. I don't know if you've experimented with that, but
yeah, well, and for Prince, like his content's all already out there. So I feel like anybody who knows how to set all that stuff up. Which, like, I know some of that. Like, I guess I could kind of do it. But, like, for me, it's more of this idea of, like continuing moderation to make sure that it's, like, a place that's, you know, kind of respectful and, like, relevant to the channel. That'd be, like, my bigger concern. But yeah, absolutely. You know, if you're interested in that, or if you know people who, kind of have some skill in that and who maybe know something about the channel. The issue is that, like, if I spread, like, moderator powers to someone else in that channel, you know, it's kind of permanent, right? And then whatever happens, happens. So I just want to make sure it's someone who has the best intentions. But I think that largely it seems like Prince had a lot more fucking allies than enemies. You know, there are a few people who tried to kind of fuck with him, tried to cause some fucking drama.
Magdalene fucking Burns.
Who died.
Yeah.
That was one of my last messages to him, was about, like, hey, remember Magdalene Burns dying? And he was like, yeah, I didn't talk about it because, you know, it was already beating a dead horse, so then after she's dead, it's, like, literally beating a dead horse.
Yeah, I was there defending his comment section from the hordes of lesbians, okay?
Yeah, you were out there on the front lines.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway. I feel like I have this. We had this problem earlier today with me and Kevin ending the memorial stream, where we feel like there's gotta be something more to say, because honestly, ending the stream, it just, like, it emotionally on a level, it feels like I'm killing him, like, which is ridiculous. It's like I just gotta get over it. But you know, this has been 3 hours. Yeah. I think for this final Gaytriarchy, we covered a lot of really interesting topical news. We brought in a lot of the issues and talking points and concerns of the more dissident gay community that often get ignored. We brought on a totally brand new guest, somebody who we had talked about, like, trying to twist his arm into coming on earlier. So I'm really happy, Peter, that you were able to be here for this.
And if you really want to kill a stream, you get Peter Boykin to come to your stream.
Oh, is
you
that
really
it?
want to
You're
kill
the
it?
killer of it. I think no. I think that's more me. I think I did a much better job of that, killing it. No. No. I really appreciate what you had to say, and I appreciate anybody who is, I guess, more steeped in the political realm, because it's something that I'm always interested in. But because of where I kind of stand ideologically, I never quite get into the nitty gritty of it to the degree that I maybe should. So I was really happy to hear what you had to say about it, and I was happy to have you on here, so that we had, like, a brand new person, like we always do for these Gaytriarchy streams. And Toto has of course been on here before. I think it was one time you were technically on a Gaytriarchy. Otherwise, you're just kind of on the streams that I'm on.
Yeah, oh, Space Pants Gate on Discord server, I believe.
Yes.
That was on the Gaytriarchy.
Yeah,
but
that
hey,
was
at
another
least
reason too. Another reason that I don't feel, like, weird about hosting a Gaytriarchy stream on this channel is that there have been times when he's asked me to do that, so it's not unprecedented. But yeah, I'll say this was the final Gaytriarchy, and that's fucking sad, and it's fucking shitty. I think we made the best of it. I think this is one of the better episodes, if I do say so myself. But we didn't have Prince, and that fucking sucks. And we're never gonna have him again. So I hope all of you fuckers who are still here go fucking cry about it, because you should. It's healthy too. I think I feel like I might also, if you might be able to hear it in my voice a little bit. So
yeah,
this was my tribute. I had a 3-part tribute, and you know, that may not even be the end of it, because, like I said earlier, like, when I'm on my Twitter and I look at my DMs, you know, he's in there. I don't talk to that many people. He's, like, still on that list there. I go to my recent Facebook messages. He's one of the people I talk to the most often. So I see those messages, and I remember, you know, when I had first learned about what had happened on one of my accounts, I sent him just a message to see if I could get confirmation of somebody checking it, and I keep going to check that message, and of course it's not been seen yet. And that's it's a little bit painful. But I guess that's part of dealing with fucking people dying, is they're not gonna check your stupid fucking retarded messages.
When I lost my original Facebook account, we were connected to our friend Vernon, and he passed away quite suddenly. He drowned right after 4th of July, like 7 years, something years ago. And I was still connected to his page. It wasn't memorialized or anything, so I was always sending messages to him, like, we love you, we miss you, it's everything. And so when I lost that Facebook page, I mean, it really, not only did I lose like diary of talking to people and things like that, I mean, I lost my messages to him and his messages, and it just pisses me off that I lost that, so, and I mean, they couldn't get an archive. And my husband, he lost his messages too, because not only did they kick off me, but they kicked off my husband, all because they got us called up with a Proud Boy issue. And luckily I had my backup account, but it's just really irritating, to lose that history. It's like losing, I get suspended from Twitter. I don't have my messages to the celebrities that I was talking to, like Roseanne and stuff. So, but to have somebody your family member, your friend, or whatever that you communicated with, and not being able to have those messages anymore, that's very irritating. So, hold on to those messages while you can. Hopefully you won't lose your account. But if you can, document it or take pictures or something, they still have it.
That's actually a really great point to make, is that, we had talked a few times about this archive of everything that he had produced, and that's something to consider, that if you lose an account, you're going to lose your message history. So especially if you're in contact with someone who's no longer with us, save that shit. So
who got his computer equipment? Honestly, who got his computer equipment? There was probably stuff on there that maybe he hadn't put out yet.
Yeah, and that was another thing too. He had a lot of different projects he was working on, because he's a creative person. He was a DJ, he was a writer, he was into playwriting. There were all these ideas for streams and for things, and I know there's a lot of interest. One thing Natty had just messaged back to me is like, she thought, yeah, the idea of having a stream or a podcast or whatever project it needs to be related to women who are men's rights advocates, who are mothers, that's something that she was very interested in. And I think that's an extremely powerful and awesome idea that I'm kind of shocked it's not a thing yet. I'm kind of shocked he's the first one to think of it. Like, as clever and creative as he is, I'm still shocked he's the first one to think of it. But that was one thing. But also, he had this idea for a script for The Culture War is Lit, and only the first episode is out, and he wanted to produce the second episode of it, which obviously will never happen. And I'm really sad at the loss of that, because he really had a lot of faith in that project and put a lot of effort into it, and that's something.
It seems like he really liked it,
and even if like a ragtag group of people decide, hey, let's continue it in the spirit of that as best we can, that would be fucking cool. I don't want to diminish that, but it's not going to be the same thing that he made, so that's another tragic thing. And just ideas for videos he had that just will never be made. So yeah, we're all fucking flowers. We're all gonna die eventually, and when we die, everything that we were working on, all of our dreams, everything is gonna fucking just die with us.
That's why I spam the internet as much as I can.
Do it. Fucking you spread your seeds. Just fucking the internet is just one big fucking face to bukkake on, and if you miss an inch, then no one else is gonna fill that.
People go, there's Peter Boykin everywhere I go. And I'm like, precisely. We're one of the first ones here on the internet. So my name is original everywhere before somebody else comes along. And I'm making sure I've got everything sprayed all over the place. Because people go, well, why are you spamming yourself? Why are you trying to get famous? Blah, 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 blah. And I'm going, well, honestly, because I want people to know who the hell I am. Because we only live so long. And I want people to die. And I want people to. When I die, I want people to know that I existed. I don't want to be just some tombstone. I want to be out there as much as possible. So, oh yes, I want to get famous. Oh yes, I want that voice. I don't want to be just a little meme with a picture of a kitty cat or something or whatever. I want people to know who the hell I look like, what I say, and I want it out there everywhere. And there's no reason why I want to run for Congress and stuff too, because everybody kind of remembers people from the government, especially
yeah, it's official at that point. That immortalizes it in a way. Honestly, yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think that is something that is really important to the gay experience, is that, as homosexuals, we naturally don't have children. Obviously there's, the potential for artificial uteri, there's adoption, there's things like that, there's artificial insemination, but if you're a gay man, the way that gay males historically have passed themselves on is by creating things that are immortal, which is through art, through the beautiful things, through leaving writings and things. And I think that that's one thing Prince, even though he didn't live out the full life he should have, he definitely still put some eggs in those baskets. And, it's something to definitely to cherish, to not throw away.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I've said. My husband is telling me, he's like, we don't have a children. It's like, we're already dead. He's like, it's like we're already dead. We don't have a child to pass anything on to. And I'm like, well, I really want to. I'm getting older. I just got to figure out how. Because the problem,
baby rabies,
and I don't want to deal with some crazy ass woman raising my, half raising my child. So it's not very easy to just, women have it easy, lesbians have it easy. They can still have a baby. They can go to sperm bank, still have a baby, or find some willing man to school them. But for guys, it's kind of harder for us to have a kid. Even if I adopt it, and I mean, unless I want to do it in a natural way, it's kind of expensive to do, turkey basters and things.
Well, and actually, one person who is somebody who follows my channel, Jay Willie, he's from South Africa, and he's much younger. He's a younger gay male, and he's very interested in surrogacy and knows a lot about it, and that was one thing that I wanted to have a stream kind of focusing on. So maybe when we're having that, I'll send you the link, see if you want to hop on there too. I'll have to figure out a time that works out well for him, because since I live in Hong Kong, sometimes the times are like weird, but anyway. I've really just been procrastinating on ending this stream here.
Yeah, so I think it's time.
All right, so to anybody listening now, thank you so much for sticking through to the end of this. I really hope that between the premiere of his video, Intersectional Feminism is Communist Particle Board, and then to the stream that Kevin and I did together about just different messages people had left for him and remembering Prince of Queens, and then into this final Gaytriarchy stream. I hope that between the three of these, I've done an honor to somebody who's no longer with us. Obviously, it's limited. Obviously, we can't honor an entire human being in such a format, but of course, this was the format in which we knew him through. So as silly as it seems to be sitting on a computer screen and talking about issues and doing all these things on the computer and on YouTube, as silly as it seems, I also don't think it should be diminished, because this is an important part of my personal life, and I imagine to a lot of the people listening, it's an important part of your life as well. So I hope that we were able to, kind of do an honor to him and a proper sending off.
Yep.
All right. So with that, we're ending the stream. Obviously, if you guys keep in contact with me, it's much appreciated. But if you don't feel obligated, because we're not the same person. But regardless, I encourage you to continue to look through Prince of Queens' videos for inspiration and for knowledge, and for it to continue to live on, in that sense. And hope you guys have a nice day.
You too.
Bye bye.